The cosmic void is high-key acting like a toxic X again. It is demanding the answer to avoid total annihilation while the entire timeline gets clapped for the 12th time. Chung Guanhyuk stands in the center of the darkness, looking absolutely cooked by the stress of the loop. An entity with zero riz is yapping about providence, acting like humans are just insignificant NPCs in a grander design. It is posing questions that Guanhyuk can't even begin to answer, leaving him feeling low-key hopeless as the world prepares to wipe. He tries to defend his record, insisting that he did everything he possibly could to carry the team to a W. The cosmic voice isn't buying it, basically telling him he's washed, and asking if he actually put in the work. Before he can argue, the shadows of his past start creeping in, making the vibe high-key sus. The figures start blaming him for his lack of effort. A figure he calls Teacher appears from the gloom, looking like a high-level dropshipper of bad news. Another character appears behind him, who has a string of prayer beads and a look that says he's about to nerf Guanhyuk's entire existence. He whispers about falling into the abyss, acting like a Discord mod banishing a user to the Shadow Realm. The weight of the 12th regression is farming Guanhyuk's sanity, as the voices of his fallen allies echo through the darkness. The ghosts of his past are telling him to go to forking hell, accusing him of failing the mission. Guanhyuk finally crashes out, shouting at the top of his lungs for them to shut their mouths. He's tired of the low-tier energy coming from people who couldn't even survive the first phase of the raid. Suddenly, the vision of Ha-Young-si, Guanhyuk's elder sister, breaks through the blood-red haze of his mind. She's the one queen who actually believed in his potential, and her presence is buffing his emotional damage to the max. He tries to follow his sister, but she ditches him as the ghosts of the past grab onto him. He is caught in a loop of failures with images of blood and numbers flashing across his vision. He insists that he never wished for things to end up this clapped, but the universe doesn't care about his feelings. The scene shifts abruptly as the sound of a steady knock brings him back to a physical room. He wakes up in a sterile room, wondering what the hell he even experienced. A voice from behind the door is yapping about an inspection, letting him know the next round is about to start. He steps out into the hallway where the lighting is mid, and the atmosphere is heavy with impending doom. A scientist with some L-tier glasses is walking beside him, complaining about the containment targets. He's yapping about the increasing number of targets and how they've lost the ability to use the Morpheus avatar. This is a major nerf to humanity's defenses, and the staff are starting to look like they're about to AFK the planet. Guanhyuk is convinced that if Sigmund were still alive, the entire server wouldn't be getting ganked right now. The scientist apologizes for his mistake because if Sigmund was alive, it would be doomsday for everyone. Guanhyuk just walks past them, as he assures them that he will expand the facilities. The staff start whispering about Guanhyuk just as he leaves. With his sorry appearance alone, he doesn't look like the hero who conquered Babel. They're low-key intimidated by his cold demeanor, which is a stark contrast to the typical hero riz they expected. Even though his teammates' minds were being eroded during the climb, Guanhyuk stayed locked in and protected the world. A blonde man begs the staff to let him out, which scares the baddie scientist. The quiet moment is shattered as an alarm goes off, signaling that the West is getting clapped. A man runs towards Guanhyuk, informing him of the chaos. Reports are flooding in that California and the American West have been completely encroached upon by the darkness. The situation is straight gas in the worst way possible, with the East Coast facing the same wipe. Guanhyuk realizes that his momentary hesitation has allowed the encroachment to start even in the Pacific. He blames himself for being washed in that moment, but he's ready to fix his mistakes. He decides to stop waiting for orders from NPCs and head out into the field himself. The battle with Yongxi ends with her looking absolutely cooked in a pile of rubble. She tells him she believed in him even as she is being yeeted from the plane of existence. She tells Guanhyuk that she loves him as she passes away by his blade. Guanhyuk, through his tears, looks at the sky as he realizes that once again the world is in danger and it will annihilate it. The final dungeon, Babel, is looking like a straight fever dream as we descend into the Demon King's tower. The air is thick with the kind of energy that lets you know the main character is about to be clapped. In the center of the chaos, the Demon King is laughing, declaring that this is finally the end for everyone. He starts yapping about the tyrant of the 12 divine thrones, which is just a fancy way of saying Chu Guanhyuk is him. Guanhyuk is the strongest and last hunter standing, but the villain thinks he can just yoink his power and add it to his own inventory. The arrogance is high-key through the roof, but the Demon King doesn't realize he's currently being mogged by fate itself. Suddenly the boss notices there's another person still active in the fight, and he's clearly confused. He looks down on the young girl, Ha-Young-si, wondering what a single young girl can even do now that the main character is supposedly out of the picture. He's glazing his own ego so hard that he doesn't see the clutch move coming. From the sidelines, Guanhyuk doesn't hesitate and hits him right through the chest, forcing a major nerf on his health bar. The Demon King is absolutely shook, wondering how a brat managed to get past his defenses. Guanhyuk just sighs, calling him out for being low-key careless and letting his guard down like a total NPC. The villain mocks him for such a weak attack, but before he knows it, a massive magic circle appears out of nowhere, catching him in a frame-perfect trap. Guanhyuk summons the Gleipnir's chain and activates the Zeus avatar, which is basically like turning on God mode in the final stage. The Demon King starts crashing out, shouting about how a mere human could dare to stand against him. Wenweihei isn't even bothered, calling the big bad a small fry while the lightning starts to delete the surrounding area. The boss is getting ganked by holy light and chains, and his aura is officially in the gutter. Despite the power play, Wenweihei is still feeling the heat, admitting that the boss is giving him a hard time. He takes a second to appreciate Yongse's shield timing, which was absolutely cracked and saved the run. But even with the W in sight, the trauma of the past is starting to leak into his mental. Yongsu starts screaming at him, blaming him for the deaths of every comrade they lost along the path. She asks why he was so desperate to defeat the stupid Demon King. He remembers the 13 regressions he's had to endure, a cycle of suffering that would make any other person AFK permanently. Every single time he reached the end, the result was always the same: total annihilation. It is not just the monsters that are the problem. The real brain rot starts after the dungeon is cleared. A massive war always breaks out between the new humans or hunters and the old humans who were left behind. Some crazy hunter always tries to merge everyone's minds to create a heaven, which sounds like a free crypto scam. Guanhyuk has seen it all. Hunters tormented by trauma, assassins in the shadows, and abilities running absolutely wild. He recalls a 10-year-old kid being dropped into the tower at just 8 years old, and an elderly couple trying to protect their grandkid in the middle of a failed raid. No matter who wins or who loses, the world ultimately perishes in every single timeline. It is a down-bad situation that has turned Guanhyuk into a man who's ready to crash out on reality itself. He realizes that to truly save the server, he has to delete everything: the Demon King's army, the corrupt hunters, and even his own allies. He's decided to kill them all to break the loop, which is a Black Air Force move if I've ever seen one. Out of nowhere, the Demon King attacks Yongsi and takes her down in one hit. The battle between the two continues, as the Demon King mocks Gyeonghyuk for even making the claim of defeating the boss 6 times. Gyeonghyuk starts mogging him with meta-knowledge, mentioning the Spear of Longinus, and other high-tier avatars like Ashura King or Uranus. The boss is terrified because there shouldn't be any lore or quests related to those items in this phase of the game. Gyeonghyuk just laughs, reminding the small fry that he's already beaten him 6 times in previous runs. The Demon King smiles, maybe happy that he has an opponent who is finally a good match. Gyeonghyuk is also officially fed up with the yapping and the nonsense of the world. He's going to end this run exactly how he wished, even if it means everyone is annihilated together. He's ready to test if this cursed regression will finally end or if he's just going to have to speedrun the apocalypse one more time. Back in the early 20XX era, the world is basically crashing before the story even begins. This demon villain is once again yapping about inferior beings, looking like an L-tier boss with an overinflated ego. He's promising a total wipe of the human dimension, demanding that everyone tremble in terror before they get clapped into oblivion. A massive beam of light hits the map and suddenly 2,888 dungeons spawn globally like a bugged update that nobody asked for. Monsters start advancing out of the portals, and the local military NPCs are actually debating whether a lawsuit is a bigger threat than the invasion. They finally decide to aim and fire, but the weapons are nerfed to 0 damage against these high-level mobs. The human frontline is getting absolutely clapped, losing their escape routes and drowning in a sense of total powerlessness. Just when it looks like a permanent game over for the species, the hunters finally spawn in to save the day. These guys use avatars as their second selves, manifesting as legends and gods to provide the ultimate buff to humanity's survival. Even after the Stage 01 tutorial is cleared, the world is low-key cooked with 1.1 billion casualties worldwide. Suddenly, Archangel Metatron enters the lobby with a massive request for all of humanity to hear. She's respectfully a queen, explaining that the angels can only impose so many restrictions on these dimensional invaders before things get... The new quest objective is dropped. The chosen hunters must climb the Tower of Babel and delete the Demon King. If the server doesn't clear the final floor within 20 years, it is a permanent deletion of the entire dimension. The angels promise to support the grind, offering blessings from high-dimensional gods that are straight gas. Fast forward to a raid where the backline is absolutely lagging and the magic firepower is having 0 effect on the mobs. The tank is shouting for a proper defense before the whole party gets ganked by the monsters. Everyone is screaming and trying to Alt F4 out of reality because they don't want to die in a tutorial dungeon like a bunch of noobs. Amidst the chaos, a man is lying on the ground being roasted for just taking a nap in the middle of a boss fight. This is Chu Gong-yuk, a 200-year-old veteran on his 13th regression, and his aura is already making the air feel heavy. He's casually analyzing the situation, thanking a random teammate for taking the aggro so he didn't get stomped. The other guys shoot orders at each other as they wonder what the actual frick Gong-yuk is up to. Youngsi tells them to leave him alone as he is too traumatized after all this fighting. Gong-yuk decides a smoke break right after a regression is the ultimate Riz move to calm his nerves. He checks the UI and sees they're fighting a ferocious minotaur, but he notes the strength is only E rank, which is a mid-tier challenge at best. He sees the party is already down to 7 frontliners, proving this team has 0 chemistry and is about to wipe. A 19-year-old queen named Ha Yongsi, with a Miko goddess avatar rushes over, looking down bad for his safety. She's shouting at him to get back to the backline before the Minotaur makes him look like a pancake. Another teammate begs him for help but realizes that this idiot is smoking in the middle of a battle. Gong Hyuk just looks at the dude and tells the monster to wait 2 more minutes until his cigarette is finished cooking. The rest of the hunters think he's crashing out or just has a death wish, but Gong Hyuk is just built different. He realizes his current low-level stats won't let him dodge the beast by sight alone, so he chooses to mog it with pure prediction. He steps into the danger zone, catching the monster's face while it is yapping for attention. He slashes the huge monster within a few seconds, making it look as easy as wiping your butt. He laughs at the beast's pathetic efforts, knowing that his main character energy is about to end this fight in seconds. He mocks the Minotaur for opening its big mouth like an idiot, and promises to cut its head off for being straight trash. He calls the surrounding monsters small fries, wondering why everyone else is struggling against such L-tier mobs. Suddenly he notices something from the corner that makes his jaw drop. The locked-in energy is reaching critical levels as Guanyu catches the Minotaur's massive limb like it is a mid-tier mob attack. He doesn't let the skill issue stop the grind, diving back into the danger zone with zero hesitation. He sinks his blade deep into the monster's hide, telling the beast to stop struggling like an NPC because its friends are getting ganked next. The Minotaur lets out one final scream before its character model is officially deleted from the world. The raid contribution screen pops up and it is a total mogging session for Chu Guanhyugak. With a massive 82% damage share, he secures the Hornbreaker title and a one-hit kill skill coin, while the rest of the party looks like total background assets. The rewards are dropping, but the physical toll of the fight is starting to make the MC look low-key cooked. Guanhyukak's knee gives out and he realizes it is completely messed up from the intensity of the boss raid. He knows regular recovery magic is nerfed against this level of injury, and he's starting to feel like his mobility is lagging. Just when things look grim, Youngsai rushes over with that ride-or-die energy to save her big brother. She activates her Flower of Healing skill, looking down bad for his safety while tears stream down her face. She's yapping about how she can't face the kids at the orphanage if the leader gets permanently deleted. Her unique flower magic starts buffing his health bar, but her emotional damage is clearly at an all-time high. Guanhyuk wakes up and hits her with that unlimited aura, wondering why she's worrying about random orphans before his own recovery. He notes that she's a pure child from his past, which is a wholesome moment in an otherwise toxic environment. He's back on his feet, ready to deal with the lobby drama that's about to unfold. Park Jun-tae, the bronze giant, tries to play the role of the main character by congratulating the team on the successful capture. He calls for the reward distribution, but the loot screen is filled with items that look like straight garbage to anyone with a high KD ratio. Ganhai Cake isn't about that L-tier loot, and demands the skill coin immediately. He points out that they're only distributing useless items while the high-rarity coins are being gatekept. He explains that skill coins are permanent power-ups that shouldn't be wasted on a bunch of scrubs who barely contributed. This immediately causes one of the teammates, Park Sang-min, to start crashing out over the MC's arrogance. Sang-min is yapping about how Guanhyuk only took the good parts at the very end of the fight. He accuses the MC of trying to monopolize the valuables, and Guanhyuk only attacks if he has a dog living in his body because of his feral energy. Guanhyuk just stares him down, telling the guy his mouth is becoming a serious debuff for the whole party. The tension is reaching a domain expansion level of intensity, as Sang-min threatens to shut the MC's mouth for good. Before the lobby turns into a full-blown PvP zone, Captain Jun-tae steps in to restore some order. He actually hands over the one-hit kill coin, admitting he let his own greed get a little sus during the distribution. The captain acknowledges that Guanhyuk's 82% contribution is absolutely cracked and deserves the top-tier loot. Upon receiving the coin, Guanhyuk grabs his sister's hand and leaves. The entire exchange leaves Sang-min looking salty and confused, wondering why the leader is glazing a brat so hard. Jun-tae doesn't care about the feelings of small fry hunters and sticks to the regulations. Sang-min warns the Jun-tae that being too cocky with his mediocre skills will get his bronze head shattered. He reminds Guanhyuk and Youngsi that this is a world where players will yoink your life for a single coin, so they need to abandon their disgusting greed. The vibe is officially cooked, and Guanhyuk decides it is time to exit the dungeon. Youngsi asks if he's really okay with the bad rumors that are going to spread about his toxic gameplay. Guanhyuk just hits her with the don't care stare, stating he has zero intention of hanging out with weaklings anyway. He tells her that just the two of them are enough to carry the server, which is a major Riz moment for the queen. He lights up a cigarette, enjoying a post-raid smoke like he's just finished a speedrun of the century. Youngsi is baffled by his sudden habit, looking at him like he's developed a brain rot she didn't know about. He tells her she's still as cute as ever, causing her to crash out from the sudden flirtation. But it's all chill since they're not biological siblings. But the ending is dark, showing that the MC is still playing a very different game than everyone else. As he looks at her, he's secretly wondering when he'll have to delete her from the world in this timeline too. The 13th regression is already looking like a no-mercy run, and Guanhyuk is ready to kill anything that stands in his way. Sarum Academy is looking like a low-tier playground today. Some kids are flexing Avatar Icarus like it is a rare skin, while a little girl warns them about the resident queen's wrath. Speak of the devil, Ha Youngsi shows up looking like she's about to patch their fun out of existence. The little punks call her a gang granny, which is high-key a roast considering she's only a spry 19. She's not taking the slander lightly, lunging at them with some mid-energy aggression. The kids scramble away because even with Icarus they don't want to catch these granny hands. Meanwhile, the MC is locked in his room, staring at a status window that looks like a laggy terminal. He's calculating the toll of the 13th regression, and the numbers are straight up depressing. He spent hundreds of years in this toxic loop trying to stop humanity from getting deleted. His mental strength is currently at a -50, which is low-key a mental boom status. Guanhyok sighs, looking like he's reached the human cap. He's thinking this run might be his final respawn before the respawn server closes for good, and the burnout is real, no cap. He pulls out his stack of 82 purple coins, which is honestly a massive bag. Most players would spend these on mid-tier upgrades, but Guanhyok is aiming for that endgame meta. He examines the hidden potential of his avatar observer. Knowing the RNG on these coins is usually sheet. You never know what abilities you'll pull until you start gambling with the XP. After 13 regressions, he doesn't need to read the manual anymore. He knows the right answer is to dump the whole bag into one stat to mog the system before the next patch. From his 82 coins, he gets a whopping 32 million won. He confirms the transaction, pouring 32 million won worth of coins into a single button mash. The status window starts spamming level up notifications like a global chat on a Saturday night. He wonders what kind of face the queen would make if she saw him burning a mortgage on an observer skill. He hits level 9, unlocking a synchronization option that feels like a modded expansion. The observer avatar initiates a deep sync, acting like a high-speed download for his brain. Gunhuri commands it to read his data, ready to yoink the secrets of his future selves. He catches a glimpse of his future self within the memory bank, and the aura is unlimited. There's zero time for yapping as the synchronization hits the final phase, and the screen turns white. A forced awakening notification pops up, expanding his original form like he's Titan shifting in a studio apartment. His potential is confirmed, and he's ready to calculate the future with zero lag. 2 new DLC skills drop into his inventory, Prediction and Enemy Search. He's basically turned on wall hacks and auto dodge at the same time, making the upcoming lobby look clapped. The map expands, displaying every hidden enemy as a red marker like he's playing Search and Destroy. He's reached the awakening limit for now, and the vibe is immaculate. Guanhyok finishes the grind and starts walking out, thinking the progress is going well. He's moving with that him energy, unaware that some NPCs are about to try a gank. Outside, a group of salty hunters are yapping about how Guanhyok hogged all the loot. They're calling him a bastard because they can't handle being outplayed by a solo carry. One of them is ready to crash out, claiming he's going to end the MC right now. They're underestimating the guy who soloed a Minotaur, which is a major skill issue on their part. They think an ambush will work because anyone would be a goner if they got jumped in their sleep. They're planning to steal his skill coins and Alt F4 his life before the next dungeon starts. The leader of the gank squad flexes his avatar Predation, looking to farm some player XP. He's hoping to devour the MC and steal all his skills, with which he can finally hit that B rank status he's been down bad for. Out of nowhere, the group gets attacked as Guanhyok hits a guy in the stomach. Guanhyok complains that a human has too little muscle to be satisfying to stab, which is a sus comment mid-fight. Another guy attacks and mocks Guanhyok, calling him the petty thief, telling him that while he has guts, his build is too weak. Guanhyok suggests the guy go to a sumo stable if he wants to flex his weight like that. The MC reminds them that while regression nerfed his peak physical stats, his precision is still S tier. He starts handing out Ls with a surgical technique that leaves the attackers straight cooked. His situational judgment and combat sense are absolutely mogging these background actors. He declares that in a human lobby, he's unbeatable, leaving the gankers wondering what kind of monster they just poked. The villain captain realizes his team is getting clapped and steps up with his own avatar. He summons Ungoliant, which looks more like a boss raid creature than a hunter's ability. Guanhyok stares at the horror, noting that the thing isn't even an avatar anymore, it is a high-level monster. The captain screams for it to tear Guanhyok to shreds, and the lobby atmosphere turns blood red. The L-tier villains think they can just walk into the MC's turf and start ganking him like it is a tutorial mission. The leader screams for his pet monster to tear the hero to pieces, but Guanhyok is already locked in and ready to handle the NPCs. He doesn't even flinch at the threat, instantly activating his observer ability and clicking the prediction button to see their movements before they even happen. The UI lady starts yapping with data as a blue tactical overlay covers the room, and in less than a second the prediction is complete. Guanhyok sees through their mid-level tactics, realizing their supposedly ultimate attack is just a simple fast lunge that a pro player could dodge in their sleep. The attackers are straight cooked as Guanhyok dances through their hits. He taunts these small fry attackers to come at him from any angle they want because he's got the unlimited aura of a god and zero fear. One of the goons shouts that it is impossible, completely shook that their foolproof ambush is failing so hard against a single target. The MC delivers a counterstrike that sends the monster hybrid crashing into the floor, looking clapped and totally irrelevant. Guanhyok stands over the mess with a terrifying riz, smirking as he asks why they're even here, trying to act like main characters. He admits that, from their perspective, he's a murderer. but he's just taking out the trash in the world. The leader mocks that his insolent yap ends here, but the hero disappears from their sight, moving faster than their L-tier eyes can follow or track. He reappears behind them, casually holding a weapon that's supposed to be nerfed against dungeon monsters in the current meta. He wonders aloud why such a useless piece of gear is even in circulation among humans, hinting at some high-level sus activity behind the scenes. Before they can react, he activates his Master of All Weapon Art skill and turns the room into a flaming fireworks show. The goons start falling one by one as Gwenhyuk stands as the last victor, walks through the smoke and debris, noting that the bronze giant, better known as Park Juntai, is still trying to AFK on the floor like he's actually dead. He knows the guy used his bronze transformation to defuse the hit, but his aura is still in the absolute gutter. Gwenhyuk roasts the fork out of him, revealing he knows their entire low-tier scheme to win without the skill. They were planning to end Gwenhyuk and the queen, then frame the bald guy from the dungeon to keep their records clean. He asks if Juntai's eyeballs are made of bronze too, since he clearly didn't see the beating coming from a mile away. Juntai starts trembling like a leaf, realizing he's messing with a player who's on a completely different level. Gwenhyuk identifies him as a mere grunt from a secret society called the Giants. He tells the grunt to deliver a message to his bosses. The message is simple: the small fry who sell their souls for a measly reward are going to meet a pathetic end. He adds that the savior absolutely hates small-timers, who try to play the system instead of playing the game. To make sure the point hits home, he starts cooking the villain with a little fire, making the guy scream. Gwenhyuk lights a cigarette looking like a total menace with blood splattered on his face. Turns out the boss's eye wasn't made of bronze as he predicted, but the damage is now done. He makes the guy repeat the message word for word, ensuring the Giants know exactly who's coming for their leaderboard spots. Once the lesson is finally learned, he tells the clapped villain to get lost and crawl away before he changes his mind. A message pops up to celebrate the successful defense against the murderer gang, officially clearing the hidden mission in the academy. He unlocks the Soul Man-to-Man achievement and acquires the title Duelist on the Line of Death, which is a major buff for his collection. He takes a final puff of his cigarette, because he's him. In the middle of an orc dungeon raid, and the vibe is already messed up, an orc warrior is getting clapped by a perfectly timed strike, looking like an NPC that wandered into a high-level speedrun. The green-skinned target is reeling from the hit while the team celebrates their perfect victory. The orc realizes he's completely cooked and starts throwing up the white flag. He's pleading for his life, promising to stop his bad habits and never attack another human again. He starts bowing, hoping Gwenhyuk will show some mercy, but Gwenhyuk isn't here for the glazing or the fake apologies. He looks at the monster and decides to drop a riddle, basically mogging the orc's intelligence before the final blow. The orc is genuinely confused, looking for a logical answer while Gwenhyuk readies his unlimited aura. He asks what's red and explodes in exactly 1 second, leaving the monster thinking for a reply with his dumb brain. Before the orc can even process, Gwenhyuk activates his one-hit kill skill. It is a top-tier skill activation that lets the orc know his subscription to life has just expired. The punchline is cold. It is the orc's own head. The skill connects, and the screen turns into a victory interface, as the monster's character model is officially deleted. The entire orc warrior squad gets spawn killed, and the level up notification starts spamming the chat. Youngsi is standing in the back looking absolutely shook at the display of raw power. She wonders if that level of violence was overkill for a bunch of starter mobs. Gwenhyuk doesn't care about the overkill accusations, stating that these monsters were already destined for the recycling bin. He lights up a post-raid smoke while the dungeon loot starts dropping. Youngsi is down bad for his safety but also low-key terrified of his cold personality. He starts watching out for whatever skills he gets. Now he has activated the Mind's Eye. Youngsi asks him to go back to Seram Academy, because the mission is finally over. But Gwenhyuk drops the truth. They cannot go back today. A red portal lights up under Youngsi's feet as she realizes what is happening. The dungeon is calling for them. This is the call of the Tower of Babel. Out of nowhere, the dungeon summons thousands of awakened players. So far, the number of survivors is 0. The Archangel from before looks at the orb as she realizes that this is the 7th call. Her subordinate Azazel promises to turn the summons into perfect humans. The Archangel agrees, but she feels a heavy sense of déjà vu from this entire experience. Back with Gwenhyuk, he promises to save the world this time, no matter what the cost is. Youngsi wakes up in the dungeon as Gwenhyuk gives her a basic tutorial of the dungeon. She looks around at the awakened people, but one thing bugs her mind. The performance at Babel is done by hundreds of humans, but right now there are barely any people. Gwenhyuk explains that the dungeon plays out in sectors. The other people are scattered all over the dungeon. The higher you go, the less people you will see. Youngsi wonders what they need to do now because surely this is the perfect time for a random dude to drop the lore about the dungeon. Gwenhyuk knows that the event is about to start. A demon breaks through the floor for his big aura entrance. He introduces himself as Krasty, a servant of the Demon King. He declares that he's here to give them the tutorial walkthrough for the first floor. He drops Rule 1. Everyone is going to be ranked based on their hunting performance. The score system is revealed, with basic kills giving 10 points and boss kills offering 300. Clearing the whole dungeon gives a massive 1000 XP boost. The catch is a total vibe killer. After 3 weeks, anyone not in the top 50 is getting permabanned from life. One hunter starts crashing out, shouting at the demon to stop acting like he's the one. He tries to flex his power, threatening to crush the demon with the group's numbers. He demands to be let out of the lobby, acting like he's got the balls to negotiate with a boss. The demon doesn't even move, just hits the loudmouth with a point-blank blast. The arrogant hunter gets ganked instantly, his body turning into a failed character save right in front of everyone. The lobby goes silent as they realize this isn't a game, it is a no-mercy survival run. Goranhyuk looks at Krusty, who is ranked number 2 in the Demon King's army. Of course you shouldn't run your stupid mouth in front of such an OP demon. He greets Krusty first. After the death of the loser, the ground is covered in coins like a bugged loot drop. People are diving for the cash before the body even gets cold. Rule 2 drops and it is the same as any battle royale. When you die, you drop 20% of your current bag. The crowd is crashing out over the coins, pushing and shoving like it is a Black Friday sale. Greedy players are yoinking everything they can find while others watch in total disgust. One man even tries to threaten another dude for his 20%, but Krusty stops them. Rule 3 hits the screen to keep the players from turning into a total bloodbath. For the first 2 weeks, killing other humans in the village is hard nerfed and strictly forbidden. The system is basically forcing a safe zone so the server doesn't delete itself too early. These 2 weeks will be dedicated towards turning yourself into someone worthwhile. The demon is yapping about how pathetic it is that these people are happy about a comrade's death. He decides to offer a special service called Noblesse Oblige. He starts threatening to tear the person with the most coins to pieces just for the XP. Crestally looks at Gwanhyuk because it's pretty obvious who the man with the biggest sack is. Before he can gank anyone, a flash of light clears the room. Azal descends with that heavenly riz to put the demon in his place, and declares Rule 4, which confirms that these cosmic beings are just quest NPCs for now. They can't harm humans or force them to act. The angel tells Cresty to do his job properly. The crowd is stunned by the display of aura coming from both sides. Crestily sulks at the loss of entertainment, but he is happy the yapping is about to end. The final rule drops. Demons and angels will offer different quests and achievements. Humans have the freedom to choose their faction, making this a total RPG metagame. If they don't want to die, they need to struggle and get buffed as fast as possible. Kruisti starts glazing the potential of humanity, claiming the stronger they get, the more the entity's power grows. He laughs, telling everyone to give it their all in this forced survival grind. The crowd starts begging for their dead friends to be revived, but the angel hits them with a hard no. They're all yapping at once, asking about food, water, and monster locations like they've never played a tutorial before. Azil begs them to calm down and talk one by one. Gwanhyuk has zero time for this brain rot and tells Youngsi it is time to move. He knows that staying in the lobby to talk is just a waste of farming time. They arrive at the Red Star Tribe Goblin Garrison on the first floor. It is a literal bone zone filled with skulls and defensive towers. The goblins spot them and start crashing out, shouting for everyone to arm themselves against the intruders. Gwanhyuk enters the area with unlimited aura, moving like he's got a speed hack enabled. He hits a goblin with a direct strike and the mob realizes this human is high-key a monster. He casually asks the goblins to die quietly so he can speedrun his points. The goblins are down bad, screaming for their lives as Gwanhyuk slices through them like they're NPC background assets. He mocks them for being foolish small fry as he racks up the kill count. A crossbow bolt whistles past his head, but Gwanhyuk just mogs the projectile with a casual dodge. The goblin marksman is absolutely shook, wondering if they're even fighting a human anymore. Yongsi jumps in to help, taking out some mobs with her own waifu energy. She's handling her side of the map while Gwanhyuk finishes off the rest of the clapped goblins. He breaks his baseball bat over a goblin's head, and the durability hits straight 0. He tosses the broken weapon aside like it is mid-tier trash. Youngsi is glazing his strength, admitting it is late to say it, but he's absolutely cracked. Gwanhyuk brushes it off like it is nothing special and tells her to hurry up with the loot. Youngsi wonders what the rush is about, so Gwanhyuk explains. There are 7 dungeons total, but only 3 main ones matter for the ultimate loot. He's got his eyes on the Great Temple of Thoth, the Hellgate Labyrinth, and the Sewer Dungeon. Specifically, he's hunting for a hidden room in the sewers called Pezaron's Cradle. They have to get there before any other players try to yoink the secret sauce. This makes Yongsai very sus because who the frick is this man? She starts crashing out, demanding to know what Gwanhyuk did to her brother. Yongsai is currently having a total mental boom regarding her brother's sudden personality shift. She reflects on how the man who used to be a gentle coward is now a ruthless strategist who acts as if he's already read the wiki for the end of the world. She confronts him directly, demanding to know who has hijacked her brother's brain, and whether he even remembers their shared trauma at the orphanage. A flashback to their childhood reveals a much simpler time before the world's server stability went to hell. Yongsai recalls how she would selfishly insist on standing next to Gwanhyuk in every group photo, a move that would make a clingy ex-girlfriend look chill. This behavior unfortunately led to her being targeted by a local bully named Chano, who clearly had a skill issue when it came to basic empathy. Yongsai isn't buying the sudden change, suspecting that this version of her brother is a high-quality deepfake. Gwonhyuk, however, drops a massive lore bomb, claiming that he saw a vision of the future 20 years from now while they were in the Minotaur dungeon. He explains that this was likely a side effect of his observer avatar, which allowed him to experience the upcoming patch notes of their lives firsthand. He admits that witnessing the world's end has naturally nerfed his previous kind personality into something much more cynical. Yongsai ponders the strange nature of a skill that grants a mere observer the power to peek at the endgame content so early in the run. Gwonhyuk reveals that the very first thing he saw in his vision was the sight of Yongsai being clapped by the Minotaur. He claims that the observer showed him this tragedy specifically so that he would be motivated to protect her with unlimited main character energy. He reminds her that he once promised to always be her shield, a pledge he intends to keep even if it means crashing out on every monster in Babel. Yongsai is visibly moved, her eyes welling up like she just watched a depressing dog movie. She tearfully apologizes for doubting him, but Gwonhyuk's internal monologue reveals he is still the ultimate gaslight king. He notes that her intuition is dangerously sharp, and that he's had to craft a brand new set of lies for every single one of his 13 regressions. It is a level of toxic manipulation that would make a late-night infomercial host blush, but for now the sibling bond is restored. Fast forward 2 days later, and the duo is deep inside the sewer dungeon, an area that smells worse than a Discord moderator's gaming chair. The tunnels are crawling with rats. Youngsea is clearly disgusted by the environment, but Gwonhyuk is focused on finding a very specific piece of hidden loot. He activates his observer avatar, and uses the skill Mind's Eye to scan the area for a secret interaction point. He eventually locates a hidden cradle and spends 3 navy coins to open it, a financial choice that is more responsible than buying crypto. A burst of divine light fills the filthy sewer, signaling that the group has successfully opened a gateway to some top-tier shopping. Youngsea realizes that being with her brother means she should stop being surprised by his constant sequence breaking. Gwonhyuk opens a specialized shop accessible only to those with level 1 authority, revealing items that would make any noob hunter's eyes pop out. The interface displays elite avatars like Zephyrus and Thor, though they come with a price tag that screams pay-to-win mechanics. Gwonhyuk explains that Pezeron's Cradle is a hidden room designed to turn the wealthiest hunters into legendary heroes. He proceeds to exchange 1,500 purple coins for 6 navy coins, a transaction that represents a staggering amount of grind. He looks at a recommended avatar for Youngsea called Uajo, which is a crank option that costs 5 of their newly acquired coins. Youngsea is curious if she can equip 2 avatars at once, but her brother informs her that she's currently slot blocked by the system. He tells her to save her money and flatly labels the Uajo avatar as a piece of trash. He explains that her current observer is far superior, and that it is actually time to give the girl a massive balance patch through evolution. Gwonhyuk purchases a Stone of Evolution for 10 navy coins, preparing to take his sister's power to the next level. He reflects on the evolution paths he's seen in previous lives, including the Farseer and the Debugger. Each path offers a different way to mog the system, but he decides to go with the most ambitious option available, the Game Master. The observer begins to transform, its character model being updated with the authority to rewrite the server rules. The evolution screen reveals that the Game Master avatar grants its user an authority expansion, which sounds like the divine equivalent of having the admin password. Gwonhyuk watches the surge of energy with a smirk, knowing his sister is about to become a major sus variable for the tower's gods. The atmosphere in the lowest floor of the sewer dungeon is straight garbage, smelling like 1,000 years of unwashed gym socks. Gwonhyuk and Youngsea are the only ones who made it to the lobby, standing before the final gate. The boss reveals itself as King Lotus, a massive rodent with red eyes that definitely hasn't been mewing enough for a jawline that large. It stares down the duo, looking like a scuffed raid boss that thinks it can actually defend its territory. The giant rat starts yapping immediately, acting like a high-level gatekeeper in a toxic lobby. It is genuinely confused that only 2 players showed up to challenge its throne, clearly underestimating Gwonhyuk's unlimited aura. Gwonhyuk is already bored of the low-tier dialogue, telling the monster to stop spacing out and just start the fight. The rat is offended, looking like it is about to crash out over the sheer disrespect coming from a human. The beast lashes out with an iron whip, an attack that looks like it could clap an entire party of starter hunters. Gwonhyuk realizes that even a successful block would result in some nasty chip damage, so he stays locked in on his movement. He executes a frame-perfect dodge, moving with a level of aura that the monster can't even begin to track with its tiny rodent eyes. The rodent knows this dude isn't playing around, so he looks for some other moves. Youngsea complains that she can't see anything because of the gas. Using the smoke, the rat attacks Gwonhyuk. Youngsea identifies the poison and uses her avatar to detoxify the poison. Once the air is clear, he mocks the rat to come at him now. Youngsea uses her crossbow to attack and distracts the rat. Using the moment, Gwonhyuk attacks the rat again. He uses his one-hit kill skill and lands the final hit on the rat. The ghost of the rat praises the two for their skills, but he tells them that they won't be able to clear Babel with just what they have. Gwonhyuk uses his mind's eye to locate the rat, which shocks him because how can Gwonhyuk see a ghost? The rat starts dropping his lore. About 400 years ago, Peizeran, that was a very peaceful place, was filled with dungeons that suddenly appeared. From there started the birth of hunters and the invasion of monsters. The rat and 6 other heroes climbed Babel to protect Peizeran, but Babel was way too strong. When they were beaten to a pulp, Peizeran was absorbed inside the dungeon. The Rat King the two just defeated was an image made as a copy of the original Lotus. The people of Peizeran because source material for monsters, and they were all a part of Babel now. Even after 400 years, Babel continues to suck in numerous dimensions and worlds in itself. Which means if these people lose, Earth will become a part of Babel too. Guanhyuk cuts the conversation short. The notification pops up showing that they have received a white coin as a special achievement. Guanhyuk offers the white coin to his avatar, and adds an avatar slot to his skills. With the achievement in the bag, Guanhyuk starts moving on. The ghost acknowledges that they are the only people who have seen him in 400 years. He promises to lend his strength to the duo so they can conquer Babel together. The duo receives another skill in the form of a free avatar. Guanhyuk keeps moving on like the Chad he is because he doesn't need a random loser avatar. Youngsi tries to negotiate, but Guanhyuk drags her off as the Rat King screams at them to come back. 4 days have passed since the server-wide summon to Babel, and the first floor village is already looking like desperate anime fans waiting for the gamer girl bathwater drop. Everyone is scurrying around like low-tier NPCs trying to figure out the early game meta. Azazel helps the people find their sanctions. In a hood, Youngsi comes up to her and asks to log her in for the rankings. She asks for an anonymous entry as Azazel compliments her mysterious aura. Youngsi is surprised to find that her ranking is 2nd place. She watches the screen as the ranker's blessing notification pops up, giving her a massive XP buff for her elite performance. She starts gaining a lot of attention from the men around her as they ask her where she is from since she was never seen with any attacking squad. They ask her to take her hood off, but Youngsi is confused about what due to. At this rate, all her effort will be for nothing. Guanhyuk watches all this from on top of a tree. He realizes how stupid it was to ask Youngsi to do this. He uses his powers and inserts his own ranking in the system to get the creeps off his so-called sister. The players get a notification about a new ranking, and collectively all of their minds are blown because the numbers are just insane. The new player X has a total of over 10,000 points, which is impossible, even if you do all the floors. Youngsi uses this opportunity to run away from the crowd. The players inquire about the score from Azazel, wondering if the readings are right. She admits that the score is fine with no sussy business. What isn't normal is the person who has achieved this score. He zooms in on the details with the intensity of a Karen spotting an expired coupon at a checkout line. He realizes the registration route was compromised, but the power required to do so is in the unlimited Riz territory. Guanhyuk watches the panic from the bushes with a smirk. He is thoroughly enjoying the sight of the world's elite hunters having a collective mental collapse over his fabricated score. Youngsi realizes the crowd is distracted by the leaderboard like it is a leaked celebrity freak tape, and uses the opportunity to slip away. She runs through the village, hoping to find a quiet corner where she won't be ganked by fans. She stumbles upon a man who is bleeding out against a stone wall. Despite being in a hurry, she can't ignore a hunter who looks like they've been run over by a monster truck and then backed over for good measure. The man is a monk who has clearly seen better days, looking like he just lost a bare-knuckle fight with a blender. Youngsi tries to heal him but remembers Guanhyuk's warning to not reveal her avatar in public, as showing that kind of power is a one-way ticket to getting banned from life. Suddenly, a bald, scarred man named Igor enters the scene with the aura of a Discord moderator in a cat-girl chat. He's looking for quick coins and decides the injured monk is the perfect low-tier mob to farm. Igor lands a brutal strike and blood sprays across the ground. The crowd realizes Igor has dropped to 6th rank and is now crashing out on anyone weaker than him to vent his frustration. Other hunters decide to Alt F4 out of the area, wanting no part of Igor's legendary toxic behavior. They warn that getting involved with him is a guaranteed L-play, leaving Yongsai alone with the scarred predator. Igor mocks the bleeding monk, telling him he's already dead and should just hand over his loot. He then turns his predatory gaze toward Yongsai, thinking he's found a 2-for-1 deal on easy coins. Yongsai activates a D-rank skill called Psychokinesis, and Igor is slammed into the dirt with the force of a failing grade on a finals exam. The scoundrel is pinned to the cobblestones. Then, like the absolute queen she is, she offers the injured man a healing item. Igor finds himself unable to move, his body lagging under the pressure of the invisible force. Yongsai stands over him with a cold expression, her power making the air feel heavy with the scent of an impending ban. She tells him it is useless to resist and suggests he try living a more serious life instead of being a low-tier griefer. She mocks his 6th place rank, treating him like a basic tutorial mob who isn't worth her time. Igor is absolutely tilted, swearing through the dirt that he will hunt her down and end her run. Youngsai ignores the yapping and walks away, deciding that this world might actually be a W if she can handle trash like him. The bleeding man happily accepts Youngsai's offering. The scene shifts to the outskirts of the hunting grounds, specifically to Igor's private hideout. Igor arrives home and screams for his partner Jacob, clearly ready to begin his revenge arc. He is obsessed with tracking down the Eastern woman and putting her in her place for the disrespect she showed his ego. He enters the base only to find it has been cleared out, and Jacob is lying unconscious on the floor. Igor panics, realizing that someone has already broken into his lobby and is currently spawn camping his front door. We get a close-up of a smirking Guanhyuk, who has already infiltrated the base and is waiting in the shadows. He looks ready to show Igor what a real 13th regression meta looks like. Igor notices the vast amount of weapons used on his poor friend Jacob. He wonders how many weapons this dude even has. He wonders if this was the work of one man or a group of men. He promises to make the people pay for Jacob's demise. Elsewhere, a group of hunters is wandering through the woods, looking like a bunch of lost NPCs. They're arguing about being lost while hoping to find some mobs to farm for a bit of quick XP. They stumble upon a cabin in the woods, wondering if they've accidentally found a ranker's private lobby. One of them recalls the name Igor, realizing they might have just entered the territory of a literal crash-out artist. The tension reaches a domain expansion level of intensity, as Igor himself appears from the shadows, looking like he's about to alt-fe for their lives. He starts listing his tools of the trade: hammer, spear, sword, and axe. Igor is officially crashing out, accusing the intruders of having the nerve to attack his hideout while he was away. He doesn't wait for a yapping session to conclude. He moves in to start handing out Ls immediately. Ren gets instantly clapped, his body hitting the floor before his teammates can even process the skill gap. The group is in a state of total mental boom, staring at their fallen ally in disbelief. Igor is screaming about vengeance, labeling the intruders as low-tier scum who have no idea who they're messing with. The actual perpetrator is watching from the outskirts, noting that in the future meta, Igor will acquire the Ripper avatar and become the ultimate raid boss. For now though, he just looks like a salty player with a serious ego problem. Guanhyuk analyzes the current power gap, realizing that on the 4th day, no ranker is strong enough to 1v4 without dire consequences. He thinks Igor is being an absolute idiot for trying to flex this hard so early in the run. He's low-key curious about how the server will react when a low-rank hunter eventually takes down a ranker. It is going to turn the lobby upside down, making those outside the top 50 start hunting rankers for sport. A few days pass, and the scene transitions to the Great Temple of Thoth. Guanhyuk and the Queen are strolling through the stone corridors, discussing the latest server gossip about a ranker getting deleted. The word on the street is that a low-rank player took out a top-tier hunter, which Youngsi thinks is just karma for a toxic life. She has no idea she's currently walking with the man who has unlimited foresight. Guanhyuk realizes the brain rot is spreading, as unranked hunters are starting to team up to gank rankers instead of farming demons. He's the one who suggested the anonymous registration to avoid this exact gank meta. They arrive at the boss room for the Great Temple of Thoth, a place that looks like a high-stakes raid. Guanhyuk tells Youngsi she's on her own for the defense, essentially telling her to get good while he focuses on the boss. The guardian of the temple spawns in. It starts yapping about intruders defiling the temple of Raji-Hootie, but Guanhyuk isn't here for the dialogue. He activates his throw skill, hitting the boss with a frame-perfect strike that applies a poison instantly. The guardian is absolutely shook, gasping as the basic formulated poison starts ticking its health bar. Guanhyuk acknowledges this is the hardest boss on the floor, requiring every trick from his previous 12 runs. He starts spamming items, dropping venom spikes and a tear flare gas grenade to stack the debuffs. The Guardian mocks his pathetic tricks, but the MC is just playing the long game. Guanhyuk starts out with a Venom Iron Whip, a move he yoinked from King Latus, and the boss takes 4 hits. He asks if the Anubis wannabe feels the buzz, acting like the fight is already a guaranteed W. Guanhyuk smirks, telling the golden doggy that it is officially walk time. He starts running around the arena, letting the poison damage build up while he dodges every incoming strike with ease. Suddenly a sus variable appears in the form of a jackal targeting the rear guard. The jackals launch a gang attack on Youngsi. The boss laughs, calling Guanhyuk down bad for abandoning his ally to save his own skin. He starts mocking Guanhyuk for being a fake hero who leaves his team to rot. Guanhyuk isn't bothered at all, stating he just needs to focus on the kill. He's got a plan that these NPCs can't even begin to process, and the smirk on his face says the clutch is coming. The jackals bark at Youngsai, but she uses her skills to take them all down. She remembers Guanhyuk's tough words about protecting herself for once, but her role in this battle is to lure these jackals away so they don't act like pop-up ads of freaky single ladies during Guanhyuk's fight. She knows her strategy by heart. All she needs to do is dodge and buy time while the jackals chase her. She can buy Guanhyuk time as he faces the knockoff Anubis. Meanwhile, the boss decides to switch up its tactics, moving with an agility that is truly offensive to physics. Suddenly, a jackal lunges at Youngsi with the speed of a teenager running to a charger at 1% battery. She lets out a cry as the beast closes in, realizing her invisible hands aren't quite fast enough for this level of skill. The boss mocks Guanhyuk for abandoning his partner just to get a few extra hits on its golden health bar. Guanhyuk just smirks, telling the golden mutt that he's already planned everything out. A notification pops up, asking if he wants to let a new player join the battle royale currently in progress. Guan Hyuk accepts with a grin that suggests he's about to unleash a very big problem onto the temple floor. Just as the jackal prepares to bite, a massive figure crashes into the scene like a bounced check on rent day. A man with more muscle than a protein shake factory stands tall, identifying himself as Soma Sungai. He thanks Young-sai for the snacks and flowers she gave him earlier, which is a remarkably polite thing to say during a slaughter. Young-sai recognizes him as the guy who looked like a human pretzel back in the village. Soma summons his avatar, the Vajra Guardian, who looks like he definitely does not skip leg day. He activates the adamantine body skill, making himself tougher than the privacy policy on a sketchy app. The jackal tries to take a bite out of him but ends up with a mouthful of regret and disappointment. Soma looks down at the beast, calling it a pitiful creature that chose the wrong day to be hungry. He then swaps to Avatar Spartacus and triggers a revolution, which is basically a non-negotiable eviction notice for monsters. With a single strike, he sends the jackal to the great kennel in the sky, telling it to sleep beyond the river of death. Young-si is impressed, finally realizing that her brother's friends are just as cracked as he is. Soma praises her reliability, which is a nice change of pace from Guan Hyuk's constant emotional abandonment. Guan Hyuk notes that the big man has finally shown up to pay back the debt he owes. He turns back to the boss, noticing that the poison damage is stacking up like unpaid student loans. The Guardian boss is starting to look a bit green around the gills, realizing its time is almost up. Guan Hyuk tells the doggy that playtime is over, and that it is officially time for a long permanent walk. The boss lunges for one final attack, but Guan Hyuk is ready to manually patch its existence. He equips his giant tiger scimitar, looking the golden beast in the eye. He ends the encounter by clarifying that the only prey in this room is the boss getting turned into loot. The guardian of the temple is completely baffled by how Guan Hyuk reads every move. Despite the Guan Hyuk's low stats, his combat brain is clearly running on overclocked hardware. The boss realizes that standard swings are useless against someone with unlimited foresight. He decides to turn up the speed, hoping a faster pace will fix his broken AI. The boss is essentially a high-level raid monster struggling against a level 1 twink build. The Guardian lunges with everything he has, trying to strike with he has. Guan Hyuk stands his ground, but he gets hit. This makes the boss realize that all he needs to do is attack mindless at a very high speed. Young-si and Soma watch from the corner. He wonders if they should jump in and help her brother before he gets clapped by the boss. But Guan Hyuk gave her a task. Young-si reminds herself of the plan to handle the small mobs while the boss is active. These jackals are like unwanted pop-up ads, appearing constantly as long as the Guardian has health. She knows that joining the main fight would just lead to a total party wipe. She stays focused on her job as the team's primary minion control specialist. Young-si looks at her brother with a level of trust that would make a cult leader jealous. She believes that if anyone can survive this messy dungeon run, it is certainly him. The Guardian sees what looks like an opening and goes for the throat with unlimited confidence. He does not realize that Guan Hyuk is actually baiting him into a very suspicious trade. The hero smirks, knowing exactly where the boss's finishing blow is going to land. He has already calculated the boss's movement patterns and hitboxes. Guan Hyuk switches his weapon to an iron rapier, moving with the precision of a surgeon on too much coffee. He admits that his current movement speed is trash compared to the boss's mobility hacks. However, at this close range, neither of them has enough room to dodge an L. He lunges forward and skewers the Golden Guardian like a cheap kebab on a Friday night. The impact is heavy, and the boss's health bar drops faster than Crypto after a bad tweet. The hero activates his clean-cut skill, finishing the encounter like a chef plating a 5-star meal. The system confirms the kill, and the Guardian of the Temple is officially deleted from the server. The air in the room finally begins to clear as the loot spawns. Guan Hyuk stands over the remains. Young-si is glowing with pride, her faith in her brother rewarded like a perfectly timed parry. The group stands amidst the rubble, looking like they just survived a nightmare-tier group project. Guan Hyuk asks why the strongest tank in the game was collapsed on the floor like a wet noodle. Soma admits he got tricked by Igor, which is a massive blow to his reputation. It seems even the strongest players can have a bad day. The big man's soft-hearted nature is his biggest weakness, making him an easy target for trolls. He does not even want to speak ill of the dead, showing he is wholesome to a fault. Guan Hyuk just stares at him, wondering how such a giant can be so down bad. He realizes that Soma needs a leader who can handle the toxic side of life. The protagonist reflects on his current team, noting that Young-si is the best healer humanity has to offer. Her unique support skills are basically premium life insurance in human form. Then there is Soma, a man with the mental strength of a mountain and unlimited balls. In a previous regression, this man almost sent Guan Hyuk to the actual Shadow Realm. He is the missing piece of the puzzle and the ultimate shield for the higher floors. Guan Hyuk knows that having Subai is a major win for the meta. Guan Hyuk offers the big man a spot on the team, giving him an exclusive VIP pass. Subai is moved to tears considering the offer to be the highest honor of his life. He is ready to follow the MC into any raid or natural disaster without a doubt. The hero tells him to stop being so dramatic before he cringes out of existence. It is time to go collect the real reward for clearing this hellish dungeon floor. Young-si is confused, thinking the boss drop was the only prize in the loot pool. Gwonhyuk just smirks, knowing that the real treasure is hidden behind a divine paywall. He prepares to use his skills to find the hidden dev room. Gwonhyuk activates Mind's Eye, searching for a hidden presence in the back of the ruins. He detects the god of oaths and time, a high-ranking entity who is definitely not a normal NPC. The god Rajeptha is surprised that a human managed to find his secret hiding spot. The divine being looks down at them with a very judgmental aura. The god asks who the hell Gwonhyuk is, clearly not used to being found by a random mortal. The hero stands tall, declaring he is here to delete the Demon King at the top. He looks the divine being in the eye. He is not intimidated by the divine entity. Rajeptha laughs, calling the young man ambitious enough to be considered a threat. Gwonhyuk does not care for the divine mockery, and asks for the god's help. He needs a god-tier buff if he is going to fix the world. He waits for an answer. The god takes a moment to think before hitting Gwonhyuk with a hard no thanks. He refuses to assist the mortal, leaving the group in a very awkward silence. It seems that even with the best stats, Gwonhyuk still has to deal with divine-level rejection. The god's decision is a major L for their immediate plans. Rajeptha lectures Gwonhyuk on morality, pointing out the guardians the hunter destroyed to reach this hidden chamber. He dismisses the MC as an arrogant upstart, attempting to gatekeep the ultimate goal like a bitter administrator. Gwonhyuk doesn't flinch, mocking the god for losing his divine spark after being absorbed into the system of Babel. He asks if Rajeptha's pride has withered away, but the god merely insists that the world's cycle is an unchangeable fate. The deity tries to frame his centuries of hiding in a stone room as a peaceful meditative state. Gwonhyuk cuts through the pretense, labeling this silence as nothing more than a coward's excuse for failing to protect his own creations. Rajeptha grows tired of the confrontation, ordering the hunter to leave his silent lobby. He believes the discussion is over, but Gwonhyuk is about to deliver a shattering reality check that the god cannot ignore. The hunter manifests a glowing projection, preparing to force the divine shut-in to witness the consequences of his inaction. He displays the current horrific state of the 48th floor, where the god's own people are fighting for their lives. The footage reveals a desolate wasteland where a once great civilization is now starving in the dust. These people are in a state of total despair, weeping for a god who has essentially ghosted them for hundreds of years. Gwonhyuk points out that while the god sits in silent meditation, his followers are being systematically erased from existence. He asks if Rajeptha is truly comfortable being a useless bystander while his world burns to the ground. The god's composure finally breaks as the images of his dying followers sear into his mind. He is visibly shaken, realizing that his supposed peace was actually a betrayal of those who looked to him for salvation. Gwonhyuk notes that these survivors haven't abandoned their faith, calling out the god's name for centuries in a hopeless loop of prayer. It is a devastating blow to Rajeptha's ego, exposing his retirement as a colossal failure. The followers try their best to fight the entities that smash them into nothing, but every time they attack, they take Rajeptha's name, hoping that one day the god will respond. Rajeptha reacts with sudden fury, threatening to end Gwonhyuk's life if the insults continue. He is desperate to know how a mere mortal from the first floor managed to obtain leaked divine intel from so high up the tower. Gwonhyuk maintains his chillingly calm demeanor, refusing to be intimidated by the divine outburst. He challenges the god to check the truth of the visions, knowing the deity can sense they are not a fabrication. He offers a new path for both of them: leave this hollow sanctuary and actually fight for the future. He promises to destroy the demon lord and break the cycle of suffering that has trapped the people of Babel for so long. Rajeptha is clearly infuriated, calling Gwonhyuk the most frustrating human to ever enter his presence. Yet his resolve is finally shifting. He realizes that remaining a silent observer is no longer an option if he wants his people to survive. Inside the Hellgate Labyrinth, some dudes are currently getting clapped by a massive dark entity. Just as the monsters are about to be one-shot, Gwonhyuk spawns in. He is already locked in, as he activates a 1/sever that cuts through the monster. The beast gets instantly clapped, its character fading away into nothingness. The kids are high-key shook, staring at the MC and wondering which favor came in clutch. Gwonhyuk plays it cool, claiming he's just a passing hunter. The rescued group looks sus, asking if he's one of those rancor killers everyone is yapping about in the village. The red-haired queen thanks Gwonhyuk and explains that her squad are top 50 rankers who came here to clear the dungeon. Gwonhyuk asks what a rancor killer is, and she explains that certain people have ganged up on those above rank 50. It's just as crew and say that everyone below rank 50 will end up in a lane to heaven. These NPCs don't want to die, but they don't have enough balls to raise their skills either. All of this happened after Igor was taken down, but for Gwonhyuk this is normal. The redhead then asks why a goat like him is running solo in a high difficulty dungeon like this. He admits he has teammates but didn't bring them to witness the sus behavior he's about to display. She suggests they team up since the boss has a group mechanic that nerfs solo players. Gwonhyuk agrees. While the baddie leads him away, her group members smile knowing that this solo idiot has fallen for their trap. They enter the boss room, where the hell twin-headed hound is howling in the center of the arena. Gwonhyuk isn't interested. Instead, he starts activating a one-shot fatal slash immediately. The monster lets out a scream as its HP bar gets clapped by a single perfect strike. He mocks the beast, claiming he is a specialist in exterminating mongrels from the server. He equips the flame giant's glaive, and the entire lobby starts cooking with intense high-level heat. The NPC squad is absolutely terrified, realizing the guy they invited is actually X. He's the anonymous player who scored 10,000 points and is currently mogging the entire global leaderboard. They whisper about how he's been solo clearing dungeons while everyone else was struggling in the tutorial. The baddie starts glazing the idea of his coin bag, plotting a surprise attack to yoink his jackpot. She thinks his points won't save him from a surprise ambush while he's busy farming the boss. Guan Hyuk asks if these guys are just as chatty during battles too. The Hellhound triggers Hellfire of Damnation, a group mechanic that divides damage among everyone present. The team is looking completely cooked as the flames start nerfing their health bars to 0. Maria realizes the big brain play. Guan Hyuk used them as literal human shields for the mechanic. He points out that they didn't even set up fire resistance, which is a major skill issue for a ranker. He reveals his total fire resistance is a cracked 582%. He didn't bring his real team because he didn't want them to see him crashing out on these victims. Guan Hyuk decides it is time to delete these meat shields before they can try to betray him. He slashes them down while they scream in confusion. He brings up lore from 44 years ago, claiming a betrayal that hasn't even happened in this timeline yet. The NPCs are baffled, unaware they are being punished for crimes committed in a previous regression. The Hellhound barks in the background as Guan Hyuk stands over the clapped remains of the rankers. He's proven that in this world, he is him, and everyone else is just a source of loot and XP. Guan Hyuk stands tall as with his unlimited aura, ready to finish the business he started. The baddie is having an awful day in the Hound's mouth, as Guan Hyuk dodges the munch. But this is even worse for him, since he wanted to finish the lady himself. He activates the clean cut skill, moving with enough speed to yoink the monster's life. The two-headed beast gets instantly clapped, and the system starts spamming the chat with victory notifications. He earns the title Massacre of the Gates of Hell because he's just him. Achieving 100% damage share is a total mogging session. He secures a bag of 800 purple coins and 2 navy coins. He uses those to activate his skills. He looks down at the baddie, telling her that she totally deserved this. He orders his avatar to devour the dog. Out of nowhere, a random lady pops up, informing Guan Hyuk that she is a servant of Christie. Liliane is trouble because if she saw him devouring an avatar, she will surely want to eradicate him on spot. He asks what the woman in heat is here for, and she starts glazing him immediately. But she explains that she is here to deliver his special quest award. She reveals her next quest, and Guan Hyuk tells her to just get lost. Taking this as a personal offense, Liliane summons her skills to teach the brat a lesson. Before she can even make a move, Guan Hyuk orders his avatar to block all sorts of quests from demons. The woman is yanked out from his face. He then orders his avatar to eat his fill of the hound. With this, Guan Hyuk receives the skill Ignite. He uses the skill to light his cigarette, because why not? He walks away as the bodies of his enemies litter on the ground. Back at the village, Azazel talks to the trio. Guan Hyuk is here to claim a quest. Azazel explains that there are only 50 survivors for the first floor only. Youngsai argues that there must be many hunters tied for the top 50. Azazel reminds them just how difficult this quest is. The other guy vouches for Guan Hyuk. Azazel turns his attention to Guan Hyuk. He knows he is the guy who rigged the ranking system and skipped the registrations. He wonders what dirty trick he will pull now. Guan Hyuk gives him the shut-up call, and tells that he is only here for the quest, and his reward. He will settle for the scroll, which shocks Azazel. How does a mere mortal know about the secret item? He stands up to him and demands how much he knows about Babel really. The descent into the 5th floor of the sewer dungeon is anything but standard. A massive named monster known as the Grand Worm erupts from the darkness, shattering the silence with a screech that echoes through the pipes. The sheer power of its entrance sends water and debris flying everywhere, instantly putting the local hunters on the defensive. The worm isn't just a physical threat, it carries a poison that makes standard tanking impossible. One unfortunate hunter is splashed by the beast's blood and receives a grim system notification. He is officially afflicted with a poison status effect, giving him exactly 10 minutes before his character is erased from the world permanently. Panic begins to spread through the small squad. They realize they lack the firepower and coordination to take down such a high-level target on their own. The realization that they are trapped in the deepest part of the dungeon with a death timer creates a total mental collapse for the group. The conversation shifts to the broader server mechanics, specifically the looming 3-day deadline. In just 72 hours, the safety restriction within the village will be lifted, turning the once peaceful lobby into a no-mercy PvP zone. The weaker hunters are starting to realize that the monsters aren't the only ones looking to farm them for resources. Just as things look bleak, Soma steps in. He activates a skill called Diamond Body Indestructible, proving that muscles are the best armor. Help finally arrives in the form of Yongxi and her specialized healing skill called the Flower of Detoxification. The poisonous purple haze dissipates, and the group gets to keep their subscription to breathing for another day. Guan Hyuk decides he has had enough of the lizard's crap and activates a skill called Ignite. He walks toward the monster with the energy of a man about to ask for a manager. The resulting explosion is a definitive end to the Grand Worm's unsuccessful career as a dungeon boss. Instead of just taking the loot and ghosting, the protagonist hands over a guidebook for the dungeon. He tells the survivors that this information is their only hope of not getting clapped. He summons a divine avatar to oversee the Oath of 365 Days, which is a legally binding magical headache. The signers are banned from climbing past rank 50 and must avoid the village like it is an unpaid bill. If they break these rules, their stats will drop to 1, making them basically human-sized speed bumps. The scene shifts to the village area on the 14th day after the grand summoning. The 2-week peace treaty has officially expired at midnight, and the air is thick. The top rankers are coming out of their holes, looking for some easy victims to farm. Jackson and his squad of elite hunters are confused as to why the neighborhood looks so empty. They suspect the lower-ranked players have tucked their tails and run to some dark corner of a dungeon. They are eager to update their scores, which apparently requires ruining someone else's day. The elite hunters decide to vent their frustration on the non-combatants who were just trying to exist. One man begs for mercy, reminding a ranker that he literally served him breakfast every morning. The ranker clearly doesn't care about hospitality and prepares to cancel the man's life subscription. The ranker justifies the murder by pointing out that even non-combatants drop currency like a broken vending machine. It is a brutal display of greed. The victim's screams echo through the village as the elite hunters enjoy their low-effort looting spree. The next day, Jackson's gang is interrupted by the arrival of a figure wearing a wolf mask. The gang tells him to meet Jackson if he wants to join their group, but they do recognize him. The rumors of the hunter named X have clearly reached the ears of the local bullies. Gwon-hyuk stands at the gate, drawing a literal line in the dirt with his weapon. He tells them that crossing his line is a one-way trip to the Shadow Realm. The scene shifts to the sunny field area of Babel's first floor, where Yongsi is currently running a very wholesome side hustle. She is selling the flowers of healing to other hunters, which are basically essential survival subscriptions for the unprepared. One hunter is absolutely shocked to find them for only 10 coins each. A deal so good he thinks he just found a legendary exploit. He quickly buys 30 of them, thanking her for being the only person on the server with a functional moral compass. Yongsi is happy to help, but her mind is drifting toward her brother's inevitable high-stakes drama. She knows Gwon-hyuk is likely dealing with the top-tier elites, a group known for having more ego than actual combat skill. Soma stands nearby. He reflects on Gwon-hyuk's use of a divine oath skill, which is a cracked way to control both noobs and rankers. He realizes they were sent out of the village for a very specific and likely blood-soaked purpose. Soma wonders if Gwon-hyuk has officially started a lobby-wide deletion spree for the greater good. Back at the village entrance, the atmosphere is considerably more toxic. Gwon-hyuk has drawn a literal line in the dirt, and a hunter who crossed it was immediately sent back to the main menu. The crowd of hunters is fuming, calling him a lunatic for gatekeeping. The only exit. They are desperate to reach the dungeon to rack up points, but the MC is manually patching their progress to 0. He informs them that he has taken on a quest to ensure no low-tier hunters get farmed by the local bullies today. He claims he already taught the lower-tier players how to earn points, so he can't let the rankers pad their stats any further. The rankers are losing their minds, terrified that the scrubs might actually catch up to their level. One man lunges for a kill, but he is met with a perfect counterattack. Gwon-hyuk equips his Hell Squad leader's sword and activates Clean Cut. He tells the trash to stop yapping and listen until he is finished explaining the server rules. He clarifies that his plan only helps the lower tier players get above rank 50, which shouldn't even trigger the top tier elites. The rankers don't buy it, acting as if they've never heard of basic community service before. Gwon-hyuk just stares them down, telling them to trust his blade if they can't trust his very suspicious words. Suddenly, 3 heavy hitters arrive: Grek, Brandon, and Kim Song-chul, the dungeon's most expensive ego holders. They claim there is a hierarchy even among rankers, and plan to beat the attitude out of the masked man. Gwon-hyuk just smirks behind his mask, ready to show them that rank is just a number, but skill is a requirement. The musketeer trio launches a coordinated attack, showing a level of teamwork that is actually somewhat respectable. Gwon-hyuk dodges their strikes with ease. The enemy notes that while he is talented, he is low-key leaning on his items to stay relevant. Brandon catches Gwon-hyuk's blade and snaps the Hell Squad leader's sword. Kim Song-chul takes the opportunity to land a strike, but Gwon-hyuk activates his trump card, Ignite, triggering a massive explosion. Maria jumps in to help, making sure that Gwon-hyuk's skills won't work anymore. Someone jumps Gwon-hyuk again, and this time he takes the hit. Kim Song-chul asks if this pathetic display is all the number 1 ranker has to offer the current lobby. Kromyoka stands in the center of the wreckage, looking like he's waiting for a late bus while everything around him burns. He uses Ignite once again and a massive pillar of flame erupts, illuminating the area with a very unhealthy orange glow. He activates Falmel's protection, which basically gives his body a permanent no-smoking sign. His fire resistance hits the maximum level. The enemy points out that spamming the same move over and over is a top-tier rookie mistake. Gwon-hyuk blocks the moves and another explosion occurs. Thick smoke begins to fill the battlefield, and the enemy realizes what a sloppy fight this is, something very untypical of the Guanyuek. They know. The enemy wonders exactly how many coins a number 1 ranker is worth. Guanyuek uses his skill transformations and attacks the enemies one by one. This time, they take all the hits. Guanyuek moves through the battle with explosions in every step. The enemies look at 2 of their fallen friends, wondering how this tyrant took down 2 people with 1 hit. The next target is Kim Sung-chul, who uses his shield to block Guanyuek's attack. But with Guanyuek's skills, even he takes a massive blow. Guanyuek stands at his face with his weapon at his throat. Kim starts begging. Before Guanyuek can take him down, another force interrupts the two. Jackson has finally made his move. He stands with his sword facing Guanyuek, basking in the fact that the top ranker knows his name. Jackson looks at his fallen friends and knows in an instant that X is not a normal person. Guanyuek reminds Jackson that if they want to fight, it will be his life on the line. But Jackson knows he won't ever win in a fair fight. But this battlefield works in his favor since the grounds are filled with his friends. He uses his skills that give his team a boost. None of the allies will be hurt by each other's attacks now. Jackson commands his tank unit to fight, and they all rush at Guanyuek. He then orders the damage dealers to start attacking. Together they will take down the menace called Guanyuek. The ranker army lets out a unified roar as they unleash their first volley of magical projectiles and arrows. A massive barrage rains down on Guanyuek's position, looking like a server stress test gone wrong. The impact creates a blinding flash of light and a shockwave that rattles the surrounding stone as the group holds their breath. They stare through the settling dust to see if their group lynch actually worked, looking for a body in the rubble. The lobby remains suspiciously quiet as the smoke clears, but the target has already vanished from their line of sight. A voice from above breaks the silence, confirming the MC is still very much in the game. Guanyuek has repositioned to the high ground, looking down on the crowd with an unlimited aura of indifference. Jackson immediately orders the tanker team to pursue, relying on the shared fate buff to maintain the pressure. This top-tier team kill nullification skill allows his squad to ignore friendly fire while they rain hell. The shared fate ability allows the rankers to use their weapons without hesitation, even if their allies are in the way. It creates a possibility for surprise attacks that pierce through enemies to hit the MC from suspicious angles. It is a buff specialized for mob justice, making the numbers advantage feel particularly broken. Guanyuek finds the entire situation to be a massive chore, noting that coordinating NPCs is Jackson's only talent. He decides to stop the yapping and starts activating a skill of his own to reset the pace of the encounter, but his attack seemingly does nothing. Maria reminds him of how her skill blocks his skills, so now his chances at victory are 0. The enemies attack again, but Guanyuek just dodges left and right. Jackson orders his men to make a long-ranged attack so Guanyuek has no place left to run. He commands his men to stay within team formations and not chase down Guanyuek. If the formation breaks, they won't be able to keep up. Guanyuek looks at his weapon, which has now lost all durability. This moment of distraction allows the enemy to smack him in the face. Song-chul rushes at Guanyuek, breaking the team's formation. Guanyuek equips his gargoyle halberd and ignition boost. The enemies watch from the sidelines. Song-chul meets his fate as Guanyuek thanks him for the spare change. He burns 20 purple coins to buff his build mid-fight, reaching level 10 with his avatar. The ranking army sees the light and panics, shouting for everyone to fire another volley before he can react. Jackson screams for his team to attack, but Guanyuek just stares them down. He tells the crowd they are way too slow as he activates a skill called chrono control. This allows him to manipulate the flow of time for a short period, effectively turning everyone else into snails. Guanyuek casually strolls through the frozen crowd, moving with a level of skill that they cannot even comprehend. They scream in confusion as Guanyuek initiates a skill chain activation, combining his time control with ignition boost. He turns himself into a high-speed human projectile, careening through the ranks of the elite hunters. The result is a massive explosion of force that sends the rankers flying like clapped ragdolls. Jackson then takes a direct hit and is sent crashing into the floor, his aura looking completely shattered by the impact. The rank 2 player is down bad, staring at the MC in disbelief as his entire team gets wiped. Guanyuek stands over the mess, looking like the only one in the room with a functional brain. He mentions that dealing with this level of stupidity is always such a hassle for his schedule. Maria wonders if surrendering will save her skin, but Guanyuek is not that merciful. Guanyuek attacks her, but he is blocked by Azazel, who asks whether or not he was doing the 100 Survivor quest. To her, it looks as if he is on his way to exterminate 100 people rather than saving them. Azazel looks at Guanyuek as he asks whether he has switched to the demon side. Azazel asks if Guanyuek has betrayed the humans for the demons. Guanyuek clarifies that he is still a neutral party. Everything he is doing is for the survival of 100 people. He explains that there were too many people hogging the first 50 spots, so he had to cut down the numbers himself. Azazel reminds him that the only reason why the angels keep strong humans alive is so they have a higher chance of breaking out from Babel, not because they like someone. But our guy here is cutting down the strong ones for weaklings. This sounds more like the doing of a demon. Azazel points his weapon at Guanyuek, who explains that he doesn't know who intended the quest to be this way, It is also against the rules to attack humans, so the angel should just step away. The goons start begging Azazel to save them from the tyrant. Guanhyuk has his own trump card. He promises to report this to Babel if she doesn't move. Azazel tells him that the men he has disposed should be enough. He doesn't need to end these people too. He won't interfere if Guanhyuk steps away, but Guanhyuk doesn't promise anything. He has already been hurt thanks to the goons, and there are no vaccines that will promise him safety. Before he can attack the goons, Azazel asks him one last time what he wants. Immediately, Guanhyuk says that he wants the Holy Summoning Scroll as a part of the 100 Survivor quest. Azazel reminds him that that item is only for the person who will survive Babel, so he can just toss it in. Guanhyuk talks his own horn, telling him that he is the only person who will clear Babel. He tells Azazel to cheer up and not pout just because a few weaklings are dying. He tells him to bet everything on him. No homo though. Some time passes, and the remaining members of Jackson's gang are all given the 365 oath. Guanhyuk got what he wanted, and the summoning scroll is added to the loot. Some random guy walks up to Guanhyuk and tells him that all the village rankers are now a part of the oath. He then informs Guanhyuk that someone has come to see him. Soma stands before Guanhyuk, who delivers him an instant lecture on how he was to stay by Yongsi's side. Soma gets straight to the important stuff. He asks why Guanhyuk slays people. Guanhyuk realizes that all this time Soma knew. He asks what Soma was up to before he was brought to Babel. Before all this, Soma was a warrior who protected his homeland, and he too has blood on his hands. He asks Soma if killing people then was justified. Soma says that he doesn't know, and neither does Guanhyuk. He kills so he can defeat the Demon King, but he doesn't care if it is justified or not. He knows that Soma felt the same when he was fighting for his land. Soma tells Guanhyuk that he will soon fall into the abyss. In a past regression, the endless cycle of death and rebirth had driven the protagonist into a state of total unlimited edgelord insanity. He had become a ruthless executioner of other hunters, and Soma was the only one standing in his way. During that dark timeline, Soma was an absolute unit who refused to let Guanhyuk's toxic mental health ruin the server for everyone else. Back then, the two warriors clashed in a duel. Subai activated his diamond body skill, turning his skin into something harder than a high schooler's morning wood during a presentation. Guanhyuk had to counter with an ignition boost just to keep up with the big man's unending aura. Even though Guanhyuk managed to scrape out a victory, he received a wound that was straight up fatal because Yongzi wasn't around to carry the heals. Returning to the present, Guanhyuk realizes that fighting a low-level Suba is actually a massive headache. He knows the man's potential is so high that he would eventually become the strongest tank in human history if he survives the grind. Subai, moved by their conversation about moral ambiguity, makes a dramatic pledge to the protagonist. He requests to stay by Guanhyuk's side, promising to become a literal yaksha to help achieve their world-saving goals by any means necessary. With the village drama settled, Lilian pops up again laughing at what massive balls Guanhyuk has grown. He asks what she wants now, and Lilian delivers the rewards for his recent cleanup. He unlocks 3 separate demon achievements for slaughtering over 30 hunters on the very first floor of the tower. The loot list is absolutely cracked, consisting of 35 blue coins and a staggering 550 purple coins. Guanhyuk admits to himself that the demon faction's rewards are high-key superior to the angel's stingy, low-budget leftovers. She offers him a magic sword called Grim Scythe, an A+ rank item that usually doesn't drop this early in the game. Guanhyuk, however, isn't interested in a blade that has 0 durability and looks like a generic store asset. He calls her an old hag and demands something with a bit more utility for his specific endgame build. He sets his sights on the Vampire Princess's ring, a high-tier accessory that absorbs the blood of fallen enemies. This blood-sucking jewelry allows the user to win dominance contests against vampires and force them into total submission. Basically, it is the perfect item for someone who wants to build a harem of gothic minions without the hassle of actual dating. Lilian is surprised by his specific taste, noting that such a rare item isn't easy to obtain on a whim. Guanhyuk offers a toxic bargain, promising to delete another 100 people by the time they reach the 3rd floor. This level of psychopathic ambition clearly turns the demon on, as she finds the proposal very interesting and entertaining. She agrees to hand over the ring, but only on the condition that Guanhyuk gives her a little taste of his riz. She demands a kiss in exchange for the legendary gear, looking like she's ready for a cosmic one-night stand. Guanhyuk, ever the dedicated grinder, has 0 interest in smooching a supernatural predator. Once again, he bans her from appearing in her interface. Before she is yoinked, he snatched the vampire ring from her. He refers to her as a 600-year-old hag, prioritizing the grind over any potential demonic romance. The succubus is left fuming and banished while Guanhyuk walks away with his shiny new ring, and his dignity mostly intact. The final day on the 1st floor has arrived, and the village entrance is packed like a midnight release for a console that's already sold out. Every hunter who hasn't been deleted yet is nervously checking the clock, waiting for the final tally that determines who gets to live and who becomes a permanent part of the local pavement. Yongsi comes sprinting through the crowd with the energy of someone who just found the last roll of toilet paper during a global lockdown. She finds Guanhyuk and gives him a very sisterly hug. Soma follows closely behind, herding the surviving low-rankers like a mother hen with a black belt. The low-rank hunters are practically worshipping Guanhyuk, viewing him as a savior whose aura is more impressive than a perfectly cooked steak on a diet day. They are weeping with joy because they've managed to scrape into the top 50, a feat they thought was as likely as finding a politician who actually keeps their promises. Guanhyuk turns his attention to Azazel, demanding the specific rewards he was promised for completing his aggressive population management quest. Right on time, the demons make their entrance. Christie doesn't like the looks on these hunters' faces. He opens up his screen and is immediately shocked by the 93 people, all tied for the same spot in the top 50. Azazel smirks at the demons as the humans cheer at their Uno reverse. Christie gets mad as he demands to know what witchery Azazel pulled. He reminds her that direct intervention is against the rules, but Azazel is smug. He didn't even do anything. He then shifts his attention to Lilian because even she knew what the humans were up to. Krenschwiesti promises to have a chat with Lilian. The rankers check their ranks and are shocked to see that they are in actual ranks and not tied for the 50th place. Jackson's goons reveal what Guanhyuk had done behind the scenes. Youngzi looks at Guanhyuk for confirmation, but the others are happy they get to live another day. But the loophole presents itself. The rankers were not allowed to raise their levels past rank 50. Kripley is amazed at this turn of events, but Azazel is quick to jump at Guanhyuk. He demands answers to why he tricked the people because they couldn't see their ranks while they were stuck in the village. Guanhyuk tells them that he did what was asked, nothing else matters. The other rankers who were just glazing him turn on him and start calling him a scammer because they are not better than trash right now. With this, the oath is triggered and all the rankers lose their intelligence and start baying like sheep. Jackson's gang was the only one who didn't turn on Guanhyuk, so they realize what has happened. Soma summons his avatar as he apologizes for his foolishness. He asks Guanhyuk one thing only: is he the enemy of humanity? The rankers giggle around like a bunch of blushing schoolgirls. Soma attacks Guanhyuk, demanding answers for his wicked schemes. Guanhyuk ditches, but he doesn't say anything. Soma admits that this entire business was fishy from the very beginning. The deals in the oath could have been a warning, but they were way too specific. All the steps he took to ensure he was on top was useless, since he was going to turn all the rankers into mindless fodder. Guanhyuk agrees with everything Soma says. Yoangsi just looks at her brother in distrust. Liliana claps for Krosti, and then calls dibs on Guanhyuk, because she was the one who found this talent. But Krosti is still sus of this situation. Out of nowhere, the level 1 dumbheads start glowing. The hidden rule of protecting those who are unable to fight enables, giving them protection of the angels. Yoangsi wonders where all the dudes are going. The city where all the idiots are headed is a human city in Babel, where warriors from the past 6 summons are gathered. Most low-ranked rankers have avatars that are more suited for chores than hunting. These people are summoned to the 5th floor so they can be of use. Since they lack the ability to go there themselves, most of them are instead sent straight to heaven. Azazel realizes what a big power play Guanhyuk has done. Even though they are low-level dum-dums, they will be good enough manpower to build the city. If you want to conquer Babel, you don't need strength, you need to contribute to a game of wits too. Soma begs Guanhyuk for forgiveness because he is too short-sighted to see this far. Christie analyses the situation and turns on Lilian for finding a player who is messing up the demon's fun. Azazel tells Guanhyuk to tell these types of schemes beforehand, so she doesn't jump to conclusions. Guanhyuk holds Azazel's hand, successfully indoctrinating in his waifu harem. But then he remembers he owes him the reward. With the quest complete, the summoning book is Guanhyuk's to keep. Kreestone, obviously butthurt over the turn of events, reminds him to not be cocky since they are now transferring to the 2nd floor. He tells the supports to step aside since they will be separated on the 2nd floor. Once they are at the 3R floor, they will meet again. Youngsi promises to survive no matter what. The transfer to the 2nd floor of Babel is finally complete, and Soma finds himself in a lobby more crowded than a midnight release for a game that's actually finished. He surveys the crowd, wondering if these people are actually skilled or just lucky scrubs who survived the 1st floor's RNG. He notices a strange reddish-black shadow lurking around the area, which is high-key a bad sign for the neighborhood's property value. A random man approaches Soma. He calls Soma a good one, which is a bold claim considering that his body count is currently higher than a pro gamer's caffeine intake. The stranger explains his unique ability to see the pureness of souls through their shadows. A black shadow indicates a righteous life, while a red shadow means you've been farming players for loot and XP since the tutorial started. The random stranger suddenly realizes his mistake, noticing a crimson glow emanating from Guanhyuk that's brighter than a neon sign for a no-tell motel. Soma recognizes Guanhyuk and walks up to him like they are the best buddies. The man panics upon realizing he's talking to a literal serial killer, but then decides against it since Guanhyuk made his boundaries clear the last time. Guanhyuk makes a move since his powerful shadow is too obvious in this area. The demon Mistema manifests on the scene, looking like he's one bad day away from a career in heavy metal. He skips the introductory yapping and gets straight to the rules because he has unlimited aura and zero patience for NPC dialogue. The challenge for the 2nd floor is a 10 versus 10 team battle. Players must form teams of 10, and the matchmaking is as random as a gacha game's chances of actually giving you something good. Matches progress in a series of 1 versus 1 duels, where each team sends out one member at a time to catch those hands. If a fighter dies or pulls a classic I give up move, the next teammate must step up to keep the raid going. The forfeit mechanism is quite simple, just hit the ground 3 times and shout I surrender. The team that runs out of living or willing participants receives the L-tier defeat and a one-way ticket to the loser's bracket. Mistema starts sipping tea the moment his shift ends, enjoying his demonic happy hour for essential workers. An angel named Nariel takes over the briefing, appearing much friendlier but carrying much darker secrets. She explains that losing teams aren't instantly deleted, but get a second chance to fight each other. However, failing that second match leads to a permanent ban from existence via execution, making the stakes higher than a skyscraper's penthouse party. The overall survival rate is roughly 3/4, which is much more lenient than the first floor's unapologetic Hunger Games. The system has also nerfed the player-killing meta by cutting the coin rewards in half for this floor. It is a clear message to the toxic griefers that they should focus on the mission instead of just trying to pad their personal stats. Maria approaches Guanhyuk, offering her flame magic and buffs as a useful addition to his squad. He hits her with a cold get lost, proving that his interest in her Riz is currently sitting at absolute zero. Nariel encourages everyone to keep the teams even, warning that stacking the pros will throw off the server's balance. She offers a special reward for those who carry the weaklings, dangling a legendary carrot in front of the hungry players. The top-tier players laugh at the proposal, refusing to risk their lives on a glorified charity run for scrubs. Guanhyuk, however, spots a group of people who look like they've never seen a gym or a weapon in their lives and decides to join them. His decision to team up with the weakest group in the lobby is the ultimate pro-gamer move. He's ready to secure that special reward while the rest of the server is busy playing checkers while he plays 4D chess. The 10-man squad is officially assembled, while the new recruits are busy praising their luck. The background NPCs are having a field day with the mental gymnastics required to understand Guanhyuk's plan. The peanut gallery is convinced the legendary X has finally lost the plot, picking up the human equivalent of dollar store clearance items just to snag an angel's bonus. They're convinced he's either a saint or a total dum-dum for trying to carry 10 bags of sand through a professional marathon. Watching the MC walk away with a team of useless fighters is like watching a pro gamer pick the worst character in the roster just to flex. The other hunters are just praying they get matched against this team of tragedy for an easy win, unaware that they are likely the tutorial mobs in this scenario. Guanhyuk decides it is time for a smoke break, which in hero language means he's going to climb the tech tree while everyone else is still figuring out the controls. He pulls out the Book of Holy Spirit Summoning. The system starts coughing up skill coins, discovering 10 but only needing 5 to trigger the main event. A green light engulfs the hero, signaling that his plot armor is getting a significant upgrade as he begins to absorb divine power. The passive skill Sapphiro takes root in his body, essentially turning him into a human antenna for archangel energy. He's not just picking up one skill, he's downloading a whole starter pack of divine hacks, including spirit gathering and purification. The list of unlocks continues with Holy Spirit Summoning and Holy Spirit Possession. He exhales a long breath, looking satisfied with a power-up that makes the previous floor's struggle look like a badly paced filler arc. Nariel appears on the scene with a huge smile. She's genuinely impressed that Guanhyuk actually went through with the charity work of teaming up with the weakest hunters in the lobby, proving he's either a hero or a very efficient collector of bonus rewards. Guanhyuk asks about Azazel, only to find out the senior angel is feeling unwell, which is a polite way of saying the old man needs a mental health day after dealing with the MC. Nariel has been dispatched to handle the divine customer service duties in his absence. She hands over the angel's tear as a reward for his willingness to hard carry the scrubs. Nariel seems hopeful that Guanhyuk will reach the upper floors, mostly so he can become someone else's problem. Guanhyuk isn't satisfied with just a tier, and asks for a special dungeon key, showing a level of audacity that even angels haven't heard of. Nariel's smile falters because handing over such a legendary item is definitely not in her job description. He points out that they are all bound by the tower's rules, suggesting that if she can't just give it, she should disguise it as a quest reward. He's essentially trying to gaslight an angel into providing him with a shortcut through the game's progression. He proposes an additional quest with a difficulty curve that would make a Dark Souls veteran sweat. He demands his team be put in the very first match, likely because he wants to finish his homework early so he can go back to being a menace in peace. The angel and the demon share a cup of tea, looking like a pair of stressed office workers, discussing the latest corporate disaster. Nariel admits she only accepted the proposal because she felt overwhelmed by the MC's aura, which is the divine equivalent of being intimidated by a very scary Karen. Mistema wonders if Azazel was legitimately blind for giving such a high-level summoning book to a human who treats divine beings like low-tier service staff. They both realize that the 13th regression version of Guanhyuk is a wildcard the system was never prepared to handle. The team formations are locked in, and the server enters the next phase of the human-sized chess match. A new rule drops like a surprise patch note. The person with the highest level on each team is automatically designated as the leader. The catch is that the leader is the anchor of the relay race, meaning they have to fight last in the team battle. Gwonhyok's teammates are having a total mental boom, realizing their only hope of survival is currently benched until 9 other people get deleted. Gwonhyok tells them to stop the yapping and just surrender the moment they step into the arena. He's planning to solo the entire enemy team once the anchors are away, treating the rest of his squad like literal speed bumps on his path to victory. The matchmaking system fires up, selecting Team 51, led by the man himself, for the opening act. Their opponents are Team 13, led by someone named Nepper, who is likely about to experience the shortest career in tower history. The opposing team is cheering and celebrating, thinking they've hit the jackpot by being matched against a group of weaklings. They are shouting with the confidence of people who haven't realized they are the red shirts in an action movie. While the MC remains in peak main character form, his teammates look like they just realized they forgot to turn the stove off at home. Nepper's squad looks ready for a PvP field day, grinning with the confidence of a player who found a glitch in the leveling system. One of Gwonhyok's benched scrubs reluctantly steps into the ring, his knees knocking loud enough to be heard in the back row. He takes one look at the opponent's shadow and decides that the living room carpet has never looked more inviting. He tries to apologize for the matchup, clearly realizing he's just a speed bump in this high-speed collision. The audience watches with the awkward fascination usually reserved for a slow-motion car crash. The referee gives the signal, and the fighters move to the center of the arena for the opening exchange. The opponent looks less like a traditional hunter, and more like a badly drawn nightmare from a horror movie storyboard. He immediately targets the weak teammate as his first prey, displaying a smile. The fight lasts about as long as a free trial you forgot to cancel before the billing cycle hits. The teammate is immediately forced to the ground, his instincts screaming that the skill gap is wider than a gap year in Europe. He desperately attempts to tap the floor to surrender, but the monster has absolutely no interest in following the terms of service today. The opponent pins the poor soul down, preventing any chance of an early exit through a technicality. He treats the arena floor like a disturbed kitchen, and his opponent is the main course that just tried to walk off the plate. He declares that surrendering is off the table because everyone in the room is just an offering to his insatiable and very creepy hunger. The rest of the crowd watches in horror, feeling a wave of relief that they weren't the ones chosen for this simulation. Gwonhyok remains silent. The opponent stands over his broken victim. The enemy asks the poor guy to reveal his avatar so he can get a free jail card. Once the guy reveals his avatar, the anicap, the enemy yoinks his avatar, systematically devouring other avatars to inflate its power level. Gwonhyok knows why the jaguar avatar looks like a hideous beast. It's because it has devoured too many avatars. This beast has completely ignored the standard slot limits by consuming its peers in a display of supernatural gluttony. Its predation slots are sitting at 24/1, which is a level of illegal that even a seasoned hacker would fear. The avatar has lost all control, turning the hunter into a vessel for a very angry and very hungry house cat. The monster decides it is time to move on to the next person in the line of succession. It delivers a final, brutal strike that ends the first round. The match concludes with Team 13 taking the win, while Gwonhyok's team looks like they are questioning every life choice leading to this moment. Rock Portal is tearing through the competition with the reckless abandon of a toddler with a permanent marker. Match after match, he leaves a trail of defeated and broken hunters in his wake. By the 8th match, the arena floor has seen more carnage than a Thanksgiving sale at a grocery store. The victor remains unchanged, standing over his latest victim with a disturbing lack of empathy. The audience's excitement has long since faded into a heavy, uncomfortable silence. One of Gwonhyok's teammates is currently having a total mental breakdown. He screams at the latest victim for being a fool who refused to just tap out. He doesn't understand why these people are choosing a permanent ban from life over a simple surrender. Gwonhyok interjects with a chilling truth that puts an end to the pointless yapping. He points out that the losers didn't actually have a choice in their grim fate. They tried to surrender multiple times, but the tower's user interface was effectively ghosting them. The monster in the arena is physically interfering with the surrender mechanics. By keeping his victims in a state of constant agonizing trauma, he prevents them from completing the required actions. It is a toxic griefing technique designed to ensure every match ends in a deletion. The teammate fights Gwonhyok for not saving them. Gwonhyok reminds the man the matchmaking stats. If he had joined a weaker team, he would be paired with weaker enemies. Since Gwonhyok's aura is massive, his team has to face this brutal reality. Gwonhyok informs the teammate that he knew this all along, and soon even he will join the hell going on in the area. The announcer calls for the 9th opponent. The man tries to save himself by surrendering, but the enemy is quick to be at his throat. Within a flash, the guy is sent to his doom with Rock once again standing as the lone victor. The audience spectates the match, wondering if Gwonhyok will change the fate of his team. Rock has devoured 9 avatars in just a few moments. He is much stronger than a lot of people. No one in the arena can take him on anymore. The audience starts betting on Rock, but Soma stays loyal and bets 1,000 coins on Gwonhyok. Maria also bets another 1,000 for Gwonhyok. Gwonhyok finally prepares to step into the ring. He is completely unfazed by the monster's broken physics or hideous appearance. The final showdown begins, and Rock immediately attempts to use his illegal secret sauce. He activates Bloodbinding, a skill intended to turn Guanhyoek into a puppet. He expects a quick victory, unaware that his opponent is carrying a legendary counter-item. Guanhyoek's Vampire Princess's ring triggers a hidden and very unfriendly counter-mechanic. Instead of being controlled, he initiates a hostile takeover of the monster's entire being. The contest of blood control is over before the monster can even process what happened. Rock is forced into a state of total submission, looking like a scolded pet in a very expensive costume. The apex predator has been reduced to a submissive assistant in a single frame. Rock smiles because this wasn't his only trump card. Guanhyoek swings forward and repeats the same things Rock did to his teammates. Guanhyoek has the mutated Rock pinned in a state of total submission. The arena crowd is dead silent, watching the power dynamic shift faster than a celebrity's reputation after a leaked video. Guanhyoek begins a cold narration of his teammates' demise, specifically detailing the slashed wrists and shredded chest. He isn't just being dramatic, he's setting the stage for a retributive justice session that would make Batman uncomfortable. Rock orders his avatar to attack. The beast lunges forward. The MC decides to stop playing with his food and initiates the release of the Sephiroth seal. He imbues himself with Isham's holy flame. He follows this up by activating a variant of the ignition boost skill to maximize his momentum. Guanhyoek closes the distance in a blur of motion. He delivers a sequence of strikes that are far too fast for the human eye to process. The mutated ocelot is caught in a whirlwind of divine fire and surgical steel, getting shredded before it can finish its first snarl. The first match of the relay concludes with a decisive strike that leaves the opponent in a very messy heap. Guanhyoek stands over the remains while the system confirms Team 51 as the winner of the opening round. Guanhyoek looks at the remains of the enemy but decides to hold back because too many people are watching. The next contestant steps forward and praises Guanhyoek because he is an interesting critter. The enemy uses his avatar to attack him, but Guanhyoek grabs the bird by his beak. The enemy takes his opportunity to attack, but it ends up working against him. Soon, the second opponent is sent to heaven. The audience wonders if this is payback for hurting his teammates, but Maria informs them that Guanhyoek is not someone who is overly sentimental. The demon and angel watch from the stands, quite pleased with how the match is folding out. The next opponent steps up but she immediately tries to surrender. Guanhyoek doesn't even give her a moment to give up and cuts her through. The remaining matches end in a similar manner with Guanhyoek making sure his enemies know who he is. The audience concludes that this guy is just built different. Guanhyoek brings the heat, literally, by activating his Ignite skill to finish off the 19th match. The fire consumes the platform, leaving nothing but the charred remains of a failed ambition and the smell of a very bad day. The system officially declares Guanhyoek as the winner, as his opponent finishes his career by doing a very convincing impression of a human torch. Team 51 takes the victory, solidifying their status. The surrounding crowd of hunters is having a collective existential crisis as they process the sheer scale of the slaughter. They realize that the survival rate for this floor has been nerfed faster than a busted character in a patch notes update. Losing 19 out of 20 participants right at the start has turned the atmosphere from competitive to straight-up funeral vibes. The hunters are paralyzed by fear, realizing that their chance of survival is currently lower than the likelihood of finding a clean public restroom. High above the carnage, the demon Mistema watches the display with a look of genuine professional respect. He acknowledges that Guanhyoek is clearly the player who has caught Azazel's eye, which is the divine equivalent of getting a shout-out from a famous streamer. He leans over to Nariel, who looks down in worry. Mistema announces that the demonstration of power is over, and it is time for the real chaos to begin with 10 simultaneous matches. The new matches begin, but the vibe in the arena has shifted from combat to competitive cowardice. Hunters are now surrendering the moment they step into the ring, treating the fight like a subscription they accidentally forgot to cancel. One female hunter throws her hands up but her team scolds her for this coward move. The crowd is getting restless, yapping about the risks of ending up in the loser's bracket while they actively avoid doing any work. In the stands, a man with glasses notes that fear and exhaustion have effectively uninstalled the fighting spirit from the entire lobby. His teammate quickly covers his mouth, terrified that the masked menace might hear them and decide to fast-track their deletion from the server. The next fighter is called to the front, and Maria suggests her plan. Her plan is simple. Everyone takes turns surrendering to force a draw between the teams. While some of the men think this is stupider than trying to eat soup with a fork, Yuria maintains her composure. She is the leader of her group, and she knows what she is doing. She asks her allies and even her enemies to trust her vision for a more peaceful path through this digital hellscape. Match 18 concludes. The final match of the bracket begins, and the contestants step forward with a look of shared understanding. Yuria declares that for humanity to survive, they must try this collective strategy, even if it means losing out on some sweet loot. They both hit the floor and surrender simultaneously, forcing the system to declare a draw. The notification confirms that while victory rewards are off the table, both teams get to advance to the winner's bracket. It is a loophole so big you could probably drive a stolen tank through it without scratching the paint. The teams erupt in celebration, cheering for Yuria as if she just invented the concept of a weekend. They are ecstatic to have survived another round without becoming a permanent part of the arena's interior decor. Every hunter in the room is now looking to copy the draw strategy, hoping to cheesily navigate their way to the next floor. Mistema watches this pacifist run with a skeptical eye, wondering if Guanhyuk secretly leaked the strategy to the masses. Nariel quickly denies it, knowing that the MC isn't exactly the type to care about public service announcements. They realize that Yuria possesses a level of charisma that allows her to persuade even her enemies to abandon their killer instincts. The system rings out with a new notification, awarding Yuria the unique and very shiny title of Savior. Even the angels are impressed by her contribution, which is a rare feat for a group that usually views humans as expendable background assets. Yuria bows gracefully, accepting the praise with a level of modesty that feels suspiciously wholesome. Nariel turns to our boy Guanhyuk, who is sitting alone on the steps. Yuria approaches him, her shadow stretching across the floor like a moral obligation. She mentions that she heard about his brutal methods on the first floor from Maria. She confronts the masked hunter directly, telling him that his current way of doing business is objectively wrong and very toxic. Guanhyuk doesn't even bother to stand up, simply looking at her with a single eye glowing through his wolf mask. He starts a slow, sarcastic clap. He seems completely unimpressed by her savior title or her lecture on the ethics of apocalypse management. The second floor tournament finally grinds to a halt as the last few hunters decide that fighting is for people who enjoy hospital food. A defeated warrior hits the floor, signaling his surrender as the crowd watches the final match conclude with a whimper rather than a bang. The system officially terminates the session, announcing that the bloodbath on Babel's second floor is over for now. Nariel stares at the results on the massive display, learning that 794 out of 1,000 hunters managed to avoid becoming permanent floor decorations. These individuals are now eligible to advance to the third floor. The crowd erupts into a celebratory roar as the survivors realize they aren't going to be deleted from the server today. The hunters are busy glazing Yuria, loudly crediting her draw strategy for a survival rate that defied all theoretical odds. The demon interrupts the festivities, granting everyone a single day of leisure before the transfer to the next floor. During this period, the tower allows hunters to challenge a special bonus dungeon located on the second floor. The guide warns that once inside this cardinal direction boss dungeon, there is no escape until the exit is found. Naturally, everyone looks at Yuria like she's a cheat code personified, practically tripping over each other to join her party. They are desperate to find safety in numbers before the tower's RNG decides to strike again. Yuria's group swells to over 100 members, proving she currently has more unlimited riz than the average leader. However, the divine observers note that Guanhyuk has something much darker in mind to discuss. He demands to settle his additional quest, a mission he personally proposed called The Example. This task involved using a cracked level of violence to manipulate the crowd's future behavior. His plan was to instill so much fear into the survivors that they would be too terrified to consider betraying the server's newfound peace. He essentially wanted to be the industrial strength deterrent that kept everyone's toxic instincts in check. By acting as the villain, he intended to ensure a high survival rate for the rest of the floor. Nariel initially dismisses his efforts, claiming his quest failed because Yuria was the one who actually raised the survival rate. Mistema, however, insists on using the causality calculator to see the truth. He wants to know if the villain arc actually contributed to the positive outcome of the day. The divine machine begins its processing, leaving the beings looking completely shook as the numbers start rolling in. The calculation reveals that Guanhyuk's brutal display in the first match had a staggering 69% contribution rate to the final tally. This result suggests his toxic gameplay was actually the foundation of their success. Nariel is baffled, wondering if the system is currently bugging out or if she just witnessed a miracle. It is explained that while Yuria's draw strategy was a solid idea, it was vulnerable to betrayal. Any player could have refused to surrender at the last second to yoink the victory reward for themselves. In reality, the horrific violence of the first match left a psychological scar on every hunter in the arena. They were so afraid of getting clapped by the masked menace that they didn't dare disrupt the peaceful atmosphere. The threat of becoming Guanhyuk's next victim kept everyone on their best behavior. The demon concludes that Guanhyuk's evil deeds served as the ultimate cautionary tale for the entire lobby. It turns out that humans are a species more effectively motivated by a big stick than a small carrot. Fear proved to be the best anti-cheat software ever invented for this floor. Guanhyuk demands his reward immediately. He receives a bonus dungeon key and announces his plan to challenge the difficult raid alone. He's looking to monopolize the loot like a true gamer, leaving the angel speechless at his audacity. The interior of the second floor's bonus dungeon is not exactly a 5-star vacation spot. Suddenly, the southern boss, Grendia, makes its grand entrance with a roar. It is a massive creature that looks like a lion had a very regrettable one-night stand with a giant scorpion. Guanhyuk is completely unimpressed, telling the oversized cat that it is being way too loud for this time of day. He calmly warns the beast not to get scared because he is about to make things very uncomfortable. He activates a skill variant, Ignition Boost, and lunges forward. The impact is solid, but the monster's character doesn't just evaporate into loot immediately. Grindia growls in frustration, realizing its health bar is a lot more stubborn than the hunter expected. Realizing that basic attacks are for filthy casuals, Guanhyuk decides to stop holding back his true power level. He declares that playtime is officially over because he is a very busy man with a tight schedule. He begins the process of releasing the Sephiroth seal to access his divine cheat codes. The first level, Malkuth, is fully released, surrounding our hero with a blue glow. He gains a special barrier called the Flame of the Holy Spirit, which is basically a personal don't touch me field. His stats jump by 50 points. The hero does not waste time and activates Sandalphon's authority. He promises to send the monster across the Sanzu River, which is a much nicer way of saying he is about to delete its account. Grindia lets out one last growl before its body finally hits the floor. The system confirms the kill, and Guanhyuk is rewarded with an item called Nathaniel's Stele. He also has to deal with some wicked mental garbage from the boss trying to invade his mind. He notes that the beast actually thought it could ascend to divine height. Tired of the lore and the dramatic fluff, Guanhyuk uses his avatar GM power to skip the cutscene. He secures a black coin, which is apparently a limited edition currency. Meanwhile, Yuria and her massive group of followers are having a small celebration over their recent survival. They are staring at the rewards, specifically the white coin, which none of them have ever seen before. The group is busy glazing Yuria's leadership, acting like she is the second coming of common sense. Soma suggests that dividing the rewards should be difficult now, but the group jumps to defend Yuria the queen. The happy vibe is interrupted when the atmosphere suddenly turns cold. One of the hunters spots Guanhyuk and immediately identifies him as the local psychopath. Soma steps forward to talk to the masked man, revealing that they actually have some sort of history together. The rest of the group is stunned, wondering why the big tank is on speaking terms with a professional murder hobo. Guanhyuk does not care for the gossip and hands over some items. He gives Soma an angel's tear and the bonus dungeon key he just earned from the previous kill. He tells them he found these items by targeting a good loot drop candidate. He instructs Soma to take his group to the western edge of the dungeon immediately. He explains that while a boss is guarding the gate, the angel's tear will let them tank the damage long enough to escape. With the key, they can open the exit without even having to finish the fight. It is a high-tier skip strategy that saves everyone the trouble of actually being heroic. Soma is surprised and asks why Guanhyuk isn't coming along to share in the safety. The protagonist simply states that the reward is something Soma's group actually needs. As for himself, he still has unfinished business in this dungeon, looking like a man with a very long to-do list. Soma stands before Guanhyuk, showing a level of respect usually reserved for a rich uncle at a family funeral. He mentions that being in the hero's presence was a massive honor. He turns and begins to walk away. Guanhyuk watches the big man leave the area. Soma doesn't even glance back once, showing the kind of stoic determination you only see in men who successfully avoided paying for a first date. Yuria radiates a wholesome energy that feels a bit too perfect for a deadly tower, making her look like a perfect Makima wannabe. Guanhyuk is watching her closely, likely wondering if her aura is natural or just high-quality filter work. Guanhyuk decides to ruin the peaceful vibe immediately. He asks if Yuria plans to keep the rare white coin all to herself. Maria immediately gets defensive, acting like a protective mom at a middle school soccer game. She tells him to stay in his lane and mind his own business. Maria is practically fuming at the mouth with anger. She insists that whatever Yuria gets is a fair share because of her leadership and hard work. She tells Guanhyuk that he knows nothing about their team and should probably leave them be. Guanhyuk isn't backing down from the argument. He starts dropping hints that he knows more about Yuria's charisma than she'd like anyone to know. He mentions that her ability to persuade everyone to draw the matches was suspiciously effective. Yuria tells her loyal dogs to leave. They worry about her safety with a man so dangerous, but Yuria assures them that she can stand her ground. The truth finally comes out like a leaked celebrity DM. Guanhyuk has figured out that Yuria is using a secret hypnosis skill to brainwash the other hunters. She isn't a natural leader, she's just the tower's version of a toxic influencer using bots. Her wholesome image starts to crack under the pressure. Yuria is looking absolutely shook by the revelation. Her eyes go wide as she realizes her secret has been leaked to the most dangerous man in the lobby. Guanhyuk asks if she's worried about what will happen to her reputation once people find out she's a fraudulent messiah. Guanhyuk makes a very business-casual demand for her silence. He wants that white coin she found in the boss room. In return, he promises to never speak a word about her mental manipulation tactics. It is the kind of deal that would make a corrupt politician shed a single tear of pride. Yuria is clearly weighing her options in her head. Keeping the coin would be nice, but getting exposed as a manipulator would be a total career ender. She asks how she can possibly trust a man who looks like he's one bad day away from an FBI watch list. Guanhyuk decides to bring in a witness who doesn't lie. He summons the god of oaths and time, Rajeptha. The divine entity appears, looking like he's annoyed that he had to stop his nap for a low-level trade deal. He activates a skill called the 365-day oath. This isn't just a handshake, it is a magical document that will delete you if you lie. The rules are simple. She gives him the coin, and he never speaks of her hypnosis. If either of them slips up, they get a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Yuria finally accepts the terms of the deal. She looks like a person who just sold their soul for a very expensive piece of jewelry. She agrees to the terms, handing over the loot to the man. Yuria turns away to join her people, but Gwonhyuk hits her, ending her in one shot. Gwonhyuk stands over a fallen Yuria and he admits that just looking at her makes him want to uninstall his eyes. He begins to reminisce about his previous lives, which are starting to blur together like a bad hangover from a long weekend. He recalls one specific run where they actually managed to defeat the Demon King and save the world. You'd think a total victory would mean a happily ever after with unlimited snacks, but the tower has a very toxic sense of humor. Even after winning the grand prize, his cycle of suffering refused to hit the quit button. The problem was never the monsters, it was the walking bags of meat known as humans. Once the threat was gone, the high-level hunters turned into total crackheads for power in a world without targets. Without a common enemy to gank, Gwonhyuk himself started clapping each other's health bars just to feel something again. Humanity ended up deleting its own save file through pure, unadulterated greed and boredom. Gwonhyuk was forced to watch the world burn like a cheap candle over and over again. Every time things went south, he was sent back to the start to deal with the same idiots and their drama. In one world where Gwonhyuk spent 100 years actually successfully saving the world, but then a random sub-rank skills activates out of nowhere. Gwonhyuk asks his subordinate what happened, and he explains. Gwonhyuk punches the man because all he needed to do was dispose the kid off as soon as it was identified. The man reveals that toddler in question was actually Yuria's daughter. The child couldn't control her power, making her a ticking time bomb with no off switch. The higher-ups in the tower were straight up panicking, realizing that the kid could flatten the entire server if she had a tantrum. They argued that a hunter that dangerous should have been spawn-killed immediately to avoid the mess. Yuria had been using her hypnosis skills to ghost her daughter's existence from the public records. She was essentially playing a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek where the prize was her child's life. And just like any other regression, this one repeated as well. Now back in the present, his patience for Yuria's messy personal life has completely evaporated. Gwonhyuk decides to make a pro-gamer move and pulls out a rare black coin from his inventory. He uses it to expand his predation slot. He initiates the process to devour Yuria's avatar. In this time, Yuria's team makes their way to the lobby. They attack Gwonhyuk as soon as they realize what he has done, but Gwonhyuk is simply too powerful. He cuts down anyone who stands in his way for the perfect regression. Gwonhyuk is standing over the remains of Yuria, the former savior who just got demoted from life. He reflects on how everyone thought the loyalty she received was just a side effect of her hypnosis. It turns out her followers weren't just simping under a magic spell after all. Even after her death broke the brainwashing, they still tried to attack him for revenge. Our protagonist isn't one to let a good skill go to waste, so he decides it is time to loot the body properly. He activates a skill called Spirit Collection, reaching into the ether to see what kind of prize he can pull out. The system chimes in to let him know he has successfully acquired a soul of integrity. This specific soul belonged to someone who cherished people and stayed pure. Gwonhyuk looks at the glowing essence and actually admits she was beautiful. He then pulls out Nathaniel's Stullo. He prepares to combine his new soul with his divine gear for a massive upgrade. He initiates the Summon Holy Spirit skill. A massive surge of energy erupts, signaling that a powerful entity is about to join his roster. The angel Nathaniel fuses with his body as he realizes his work here is done. With this, he ascends to the 3rd floor. Gwonhyuk wakes up in the middle of nowhere. A man greets him and offers him a tour of the 3rd floor. Gwonhyuk immediately demands his mask, but the hunters ask for his help with cooking. Lillian makes an entrance and explains that she is the boss of this floor. She explains that the 3rd floor is a massive island where 3,000 hunters have been dumped. They are scattered in groups of 10, all forced to participate in the ultimate tropical survival game. Yongsai is shown looking at the horizon, wondering if she will ever run into her brother again. The goal for this floor is to find the Sky Gate to reach the next level, but there is a paywall involved. Hunters must construct an actual airship if they ever want to leave the island. You can't just buy a ticket, you have to hunt monsters and other players for materials like a sweaty survival game streamer. To make the airship actually fly, teams need to collect levitation stone fragments from 6 different bosses. These bosses are scattered across the island. Just then, Azazel makes an entrance and reveals a hidden 7th boss, living in the central volcano. This monster goes on a weekly hunting spree, likely looking for hunters to snack on. The angel is eventually cut off by Lillian, who has had enough of the divine yapping. He is told to leave and let the hunters get back to their miserable struggle. Azazel doesn't seem bothered and encourages them to struggle as best they can before vanishing. In the distance, Gwonhyuk makes his move on the hunters who invited him to enjoy food. Soma is currently having a very difficult time on the 3rd floor of Babel. He summons his Vajra Guardian avatar as he pulls out a massive weapon called the Heaven-Binding Vajra Pestle. He prepares to unleash a skill known as the Demon Annihilating Thunder. A massive explosion of light and sound rocks the entire island. The boss monster, a Rex Melodon, takes the blow. The beast is deleted from the server in a single brutal blast of power. The system finally chimes in to confirm that the raid is over. The surviving hunters erupt in cheers that are probably loud enough to wake the dead. They are celebrating the fact that they won't be becoming monster snacks today. Soma admits that they would have been total history without some serious help. He credits the high-tier gear that Guanhyuk gave him before the transfer to this floor. Without those items, the entire party would have been wiped out. He is grateful for his friend's suspiciously perfect foresight. The group inspects their latest prize, which is a floating stone fragment. This is just one of 6 pieces needed to build their getaway vehicle. They realize that they still have a mountain of work left to do. Finding the other 5 pieces is going to be a major logistical nightmare. The lady is currently stressing out over the team's dwindling survival supplies. They have been grinding for 6 days just to take down a single boss. Her mana is almost gone and their pantry is looking extremely depressing. The island does not have the unlimited free refills of the first floor. A man named Jian suddenly appears from the shadows like an uninvited guest at a dinner party. He introduces himself as a messenger from the Southern Alliance. He has a smug look on his face that suggests he definitely has something to sell. The group immediately goes on high alert at his presence. Jian warns them about the 7th day of the floor's survival cycle. He claims the hidden boss in the center of the island is starting to move. This monster is a predator that treats hunters like all-you-can-eat buffet items. He suggests that their small group is dangerously close to the bottom of the food chain. The messenger offers a gift to show off the Southern Alliance's massive wealth. He hands over a healing flower, a rare item produced by Guanhyuk's sister. It is a high-tier recovery tool that can fix everything except a broken heart. Jian officially invites them to join the Southern Alliance's large raiding group. He promises that all their food and mana problems will vanish instantly. He acts like he is doing them a massive favor by letting them join his club. He waits for an answer with unlimited confidence and a very punchable face. Soma and the group decide to take a hard pass on the offer. Jian is clearly offended that someone would swipe left on his glorious alliance. He tells them not to regret their decision when things get ugly. With this, he walks away. Soma's team asks why he would reject kindness when they are on the brink of death. But Soma has other plans. The scene shifts to the center of the island where total chaos reigns. A massive 200-person alliance is currently getting clapped into absolute oblivion. The hidden boss Tyranno has arrived to ruin everyone's day. The alliance leader has abandoned his team to save his own skin. The survivors are screaming about betrayal while getting turned into permanent island decorations. The dragon is currently performing a total lobby wipe. It seems that a large group was just a much bigger target. As the alliance collapses, rumors of a new power begin to spread. People are yapping about a savior of the 3rd floor with golden wings. This mysterious figure is supposedly an angel's proxy with divine combat stats. Soma looks at the angel being and realizes it is his old pal Guanhyuk. Guanhyuk offers Nathaniel to go with him, and she refuses, but it's not like he gave her a choice anyway. A random dude lies on the ground as he curses the 3rd floor and its rewards. The dinosaur is way too OP to be defeated by a bunch of silly humans. He watches as the dinosaur chases a group of people who also cuss out their leader for ditching them at the worst possible time. The man looks at the dinosaur thinking of ways to defeat the stupid lizard. A bolt of white light dashes towards the dinosaur. The light is actually Guanhyuk in his angel form, because the man didn't have enough plot armor as we speak. He greets the dinosaur as he lands a hit on its massive head. The dinosaur starts running away from Guanhyuk, who starts chasing it immediately. The dinosaur opens its mouth and lets out a roar that throws Guanhyuk off track. The Alliance decides to buy him some time so he can recover and carry them all to victory. The Alliance turns the ground into mud as they wrap heavy chains around the dinosaur. The men celebrate their attempt to stop the dinosaur, but it is futile. The dinosaur slashes through them like fruit. Soma watches as Guanhyuk sacrifices even more humans for some greater cause. Only he knows. Guanhyuk readies his skills as the people nearby realize the ground is shaking. Guanhyuk's holy beast attacks the dinosaur boss and successfully pushes it back. Soma knows that the fight isn't over yet. Guanhyuk's beast is defeated as the dinosaur makes another run for it, but Guanhyuk is hot on its tail, not letting it escape. He wanted the mess to continue for just a bit longer, but he has no choice now. He forces Nathaniel to go with him, even though the poor angel doesn't want to. The dinosaur tries to return to its crater, which leaves everyone confused. Soma wonders why Guanhyuk would pull such move. A woman informs Guanhyuk that she did everything he asked for. Guanhyuk broadcasts a message for everyone on the island. He informs them that all of them have been lied to. He reveals the truth. Even if they collect all the 6 stones, the aircraft can only hold 3 people. He tells the hunters that he has a way to get them all to floor 4. In some distant cage, Young-Sai's flowers drift in some water as she finds herself trapped behind bars. Before everyone gives up, our protagonist has a limited time offer to fix this mess. He explains that if they take the levitation stone from the Tyranno's body, they can launch a ship for 3,000 people. It is essentially a patch that fixes a game-breaking bug, and he is the only one with the code. He tells everyone to stop the yapping and head to the northern camp if they want to survive. He promises that nobody has to kill each other anymore, which is bold talk for a guy with his kill count. The hunters start chanting his name like he is a rock star who just promised a free encore. Soma stands there looking like he has a mountain of questions and a headache to match. Guan just brushes him off because when the time comes he will know what Guan wanted. The real fun is apparently just starting, and the vibes are getting weirder by the minute. The scene shifts back to day 12, where plant-type hunters are being forced into some unpaid internship labor. Nathaniel is complaining about being squeezed for every drop of mana while doing zero combat. Guan response is basically a threat to turn her into organic fertilizer for the next crop. Soma returns to report that 2 killers have been eliminated, but they couldn't capture them alive. These assassins are stealthy enough to ghost a high-level scouting squad, which is never a good sign. Guan decides to wait and see, acting as if he has unlimited minutes on his life plan. Later, Guan is smoking a pipe because our boy desperately needed an upgrade. He takes Soma inside to talk strategy, wanting to keep their next move on the low-key down low. Soma is confused because he thought they needed a massive raid party for the Toronto. The protagonist clarifies that while the boss is built for 50 people, the 2 of them might just be enough. Soma realizes that Guan was already bullying the giant lizard solo earlier. He decides it is time to leave before he starts questioning his own career choices any further. He gives a tip to Guan to stop smoking, but he doesn't care. A man runs away from Guan as a tied-up woman thanks him for saving her life, but that's not what he was doing, so he ends the woman's life. Our hero is then greeted by Lillian, who is looking to glaze his recent performance with some rewards. He has reached his 100 kill milestone, and she is acting like a boss handing out a participation trophy for a massacre. She offers him a protective lava talisman as a special gift. Guan is bored by her generosity, and demands the Great Massacre quest instead. She tells him he can't take 2 big quests at once, even if her rewards are objectively better than an angel's leftovers. She tries to trick him into a predatory demonic contract for the afterlife. This is just what Guan was waiting for, because it promises him a life after the world ends. The MC hits her with some lore that is definitely not in the starter guide, mentioning Bel Marduk's spears. He tells her he will make her a Grand Duke if she gives him the specific quest he wants. Lillian is straight up shook that he knows about her secret demonic hierarchy. He ends the talk by mentioning a devil contractor named Wemmel, and demanding his wings. The demon realizes that Guan is playing 4D chess while she is still learning checkers. She is left sweating, wondering who this human actually think he is.